Okie dokie, I believe we are all the way live. Hello and welcome to my graveyard. I'm your host of the evening, the Cemetery Man from Salem, Mass. Always taking names of kicking candy ass. Live on color here with you on Grande's Graveyard. And welcome back to another edition of the show. Tonight, we have a very special guest. In reality, he goes by the name of JP, but tonight, he goes by the name of one Silvio Dante. He is Joe Perna. What's up, buddy?
What's going on, man? How you been?
Dude, I'm wonderful, man. Thank you for coming back on the show tonight.
Cool,
I had you on way, I mean, like almost 3 years ago. I think
back
it's 2
in the
years
Ram
ago.
studio, baby.
Ram Nation, back when we were at Ram Nation, we talked High Tension and The Shining. That's actually a really popular episode. We got over 1,000 views on that. I'm not sure.
Really? No fucking
Yeah.
way. I didn't even know that. Wow.
Yes, swear. Yeah, that was a pretty popular episode.
That's The Shining for you, man. The Shining will get you on there.
Yeah. And High Tension was, people really liked the High Tension discussion as well. So that was a really fun episode.
That's a great one.
Yeah. And now me and you, we actually, I know you're not the biggest horror fan in the world, but we've been talking about having you on again for another show. And I figured there'd be no better time than the day before the Sopranos prequel was released nationwide in theaters and, of course, streaming on HBO Max. And I know that the Sopranos is your all-time favorite show. Now, you got to tell me, dude, where was your introduction to the show? What led you to watch the show? What was the big thing that reeled you in with the Sopranos?
You see, it's kind of weird. I kind of gotten into it by almost randomness. Like I was looking for a new TV show to watch, and I'm still not really big on TV shows, but it stuck out to me because of the mafia thing. And I really thought it was I heard it was kind of like a joke mafia show, but I didn't understand like how big psychology and how well done it was. Like I've never seen it before. So when I jumped into it, I immediately fell in love with it.
Yeah, no, it's funny, like my initial reaction, I could always remember my parents telling me growing up, like I remember being a kid, getting tucked into bed and they'd be like, oh, Sopranos is coming on. And I was always like, what is this infatuation with this fucking show? And I never really got it. And, Mobsters is not something that I'm not like the biggest mafia guy in the world, like into it. But I definitely was intrigued when you told me you watched it. And I think this was around the time we were coaching Little League together. And you were like, bro, I sat down yesterday and watched 8 episodes without a break.
Dude, man, there's some points in the show, man, where you get hooked on it and you're like, how can I stop watching? You start binge watching it. And the next thing you know, it's 5 hours later and you're like, what the fuck's happened?
Yeah, no, when you told me that, I was like, wow, it was like, this show has really struck a nerve with you. And then, you were like, hey, I finished it. I want to rewatch it. I was like, sure. So we, over the course of however many weekends, watched the show together.
Oh, yeah, that took us a long time, but man, it's one of the best, man. It's not really what you would think coming into it. You would think it's a whole lot of violence, which there is, but a whole, like, do you think it's also strictly mafia related and mob stuff and guys killing each other and hitting each other and cursing each other out? But there's a ton of family-oriented psychological stuff going on, and like the way it's written and everything, it's genius. It's a great show.
Yeah, it made me realize that like sometimes even I could be ignorant. Like you can't judge a book by its cover. Like it's a mafia show. Like how deep could it possibly get?
That's what I was thinking that's probably why it took me so long to get into it. I was like, wow, 6 seasons of this. Like, I was like, how, what could they really do with this? I wasn't, because I never really like read about it or anything. So when I first got into it, I was like, wow, I could not believe it.
I had such a similar reaction. Like about 5 episodes in, I was like, shit, like this is more than
the episode College that in the first season, that 5th episode where I watched it and I was like, wow, this can go somewhere.
Yeah, no, definitely. We got a couple people in the chat. The Flow Chamber, my favorite show of all time. Flo, how are you, good brother? I know it's JP's favorite show. Definitely a top 5 show ever for me. I love The Sopranos. It's amazing.
That's what we like to hear.
Furio was a dope character too.
Absolutely,
man. Johnny, under the boardwalk with a schlong in Jan's mouth. Oh shit, that's Soprano Holmes movie. We're going to be talking about that one. That one.
Say that in front of Bobby.
We do love Bobby B on the show.
Oh yeah, we do.
So speaking of characters, since Flo brought up characters, you want to run through some of your favorite characters, maybe least favorite characters before we drop into the top 10?
Well, my number 1 favorite character has got to be my name tonight, and it's Silvio Dante. He plays a small role in the show, but his one-liners are absolutely brilliant, including the first season. They really, really want to hammer like the Godfather references. They have him doing these god-awful Michael Corleone impersonations. I know it was you, Fredo. and he tells pussy and everything. He's great, but Furio was great too. I thought they definitely should have kept him on there longer. It was really sad when he left.
Yeah, no, I love Silvio Dante, and I always love the scene in Funhouse when they have him dressed up like Michael Corleone in The Godfather 3.
Yes, in the dream. Yes, and he goes, "Our true enemy has yet to reveal himself."
He's in the red sweater, just like I'm like, I've seen that before, and then I'm like, oh my god, it's Godfather 3,
yeah,
of course.
The glasses on his sweater. Oh my god, it's brilliant.
Yeah, no, I love that's a great character, man. As for me, I would actually say Christopher Moltisanti is probably my favorite character.
Knew it.
I don't know. There's something about him. It's such a different character from my personality. So it was interesting to kind of get to know Christopher and the fact that he's so imperfect, and he's dealt with so many difficult decisions in the series, whether it be in LTP, as you call it, whether to leave with Adriana or, stay in the mob life, which is giving to him all these comforts and luxuries. I don't know. There's something about the Christopher Moltisanti character that just really kept me interested in this show. But as for side characters, man, there's nobody more colorful than Ralph Cifaretto. And that would probably be my favorite, secondary. I love Ralph Cifaretto. His one-liners.
Ralph is probably the funniest, the most well thought out funny character on the show. He really brought that evil humor to the show that especially season 4, the whole thing, he's just he's a monster, that guy. But what's it called? Christopher is such a tragic character, and he really brings out Tony's the ultimate tragic character, but Christopher, you can just tell it's just constant struggle with him, whether it's drugs, whether it's with his girlfriend, whether it's his relationship with Paulie, whether it's his relationship with Tony. It's just constant struggle. And as they said, you know he's going to die, but you just don't know when. And it's just extremely, extremely good character.
Yeah, and there's so many times when it could have happened, and then when it finally did, I was like, what? This is such a slap in the face,
And From Where to Eternity, the episode after he gets shot, the episode, I forget the name of the episode where he gets shot, but he at the end of that episode, if you're watching that live, in the second season, you're watching it as they broadcast it, you don't know if he's going to die or not. And he looked in real bad shape at the end of that episode when I was first watching it. I was like, wow, are they going to take his character out here? Which I didn't think, but I was like, wow, I couldn't believe that.
Yeah, no, it would have been a huge disservice to the show, and I don't know. There's something about that character which it's funny because you would never think I would, because it's such a different character from my type of personality. Yeah. I think that's why I liked it so much. I was like, wow, this is, and I think Michael Imperioli, he plays the character so well, and the actors, all the actors on the show are great, and back to Ralphie with the one-liners, and I'm late today, but you'll be stupid forever.
Oh my god,
and, Peter Paul.
Oh my god, that's crazy. He never admits to anything. He killed Tracy, and he goes, "Hey, she slipped. Listen." He comes to the sit down with Tony after, and he's like, "Tony, listen, I was doing a lot of coke." It's just
I love when the three of them, I forget the third guy, but the three of them are at the horse race, and their horse wins, and the one guy he's like, "Oh, I placed the bet on the wrong horse," or whatever. He pretends to lie, and Ralph's celebrating, and Tony's asking for the money, and he gives him a little, and then Tony
and he looks at him with his hands out. Oh my god,
I love that scene. It's not a word is spoken, but it's all the humor is. Oh, it's fantastic, man. Flo says Sopranos, Game of Thrones, Frasier, Atlanta, Squid Game, and Twin Peaks all-time faves. Those are all fantastic shows. I've been meaning to rewatch the third season of Twin Peaks, man. I got to find the time somewhere, but Twin Peaks is a masterpiece. Dexter, True Blood, Breaking Bad. I would say that's funny. Maybe not True Blood, but Breaking Bad and Dexter, I don't think you get those shows without The Sopranos. I really don't. I think those are great shows, but I think they owe a lot.
Yeah, especially Breaking Bad. Those the evil, I forget what the word is for the character that they do with Tony. It's the evil character that you want to root for, and that built a ton of shows had main characters that you're not supposed to want to root for them, but they just have those qualities that you just want to pull for them. You want to see them win.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Those episodes of the Russian KGB guy were awesome. Yeah, no, we will be discussing Pine Barrens tonight as well. So some spoilers, but
yeah, sure.
I guess we can kick off this list right underway here. I have it in the private chat so nobody else but us can see it. Coming in at number 10, it is Soprano home movies, of course, from season 6. This was season 6B.
This is the first episode of season 6B. I believe it came out in like 2007, I believe, or 2008. It was the last. I believe they did 13 episodes, and then this was either the 14th one. Mm-hmm. So they in that season. So this one has a lot of stuff going on with it. What we got here, because it starts with Tony getting arrested with when in the end of season 5 when he goes to meet up with Johnny Sack at his house and like early in the morning, the feds come and he runs away and he has to walk all the way home like 10 miles or whatever it was. Yeah. And he throws the gun in the snow or whatever. He gets arrested for that gun in this episode in the beginning. The police are all over his house or whatever. So that was really interesting because I didn't see that coming. I was like, wow, they really brought this a long way back because that was
they make sure to show you too. They're like, oh, you remember this?
Yep, yeah, that's in the previously in the Sopranos. Yeah, that's definitely. Oh man, that's a good one. But they in that episode they also. Bobby asks Tony to go up to his upstate house to, take his mind off or whatever. So they go up there, and I believe it's just Bobby, Carmela, Janice, Tony, and Bobby and Janice's daughter and their caretaker actually, and the babysitter or whatever.
Yeah.
So it's just them, and they're having fun. They're playing a lot of They're playing Monopoly, I believe. That's where they end up. They end up playing Monopoly. Bobby's really pissed off about the rules. Like there's some home rule that he plays, and Bobby's like, "This isn't in the rules. This guy, the guy that made the game, he didn't want to play like this." Out. That's great.
Yeah, no, the shit that Bobby gets mad about is just it's funny because like he's just such a simple character, and I think that's why I really always like Bobby.
He's the most mellow male character probably on that that's in that life on that show. Like,
he has little to no ego, and like that's why I think some of the best things about this episode, and the reason why I think it cracks the top 10 is just some of the scenes of those two talking, Tony and Bobby, and of course he gets Tony the gun for his birthday, and they're shooting it.
Oh yeah, he's shooting in the woods, and he's like, "Holy shit!" Like
they're sort of just having bro time, and I love there's a scene of the two of them in the boat, and they're talking, and a lot of it is foreshadowing the final episode. And I actually thought with some cool things upon rewatch of this, there's a scene where Tony's sitting. It's not a yacht, but it's like the pier or the dock or wherever, and you see there's the boat and keeps hitting against the side, and every time it does, you hear a bell ring. And I always thought, like, maybe that has something to do with the final episode because they keep cutting back from this bell ringing.
Yeah, that's right.
Point of view, mm-hmm. And that's exactly how the final episode of the show ends. It's and of course the line, Bobby says, "Hey, I bet you don't even hear it."
Yeah, the scene with them on that boat is so well done, and it's so eerie because they also they don't bring it up, but it kind of they do the same thing with a scene in the last season, the last parts. Sil is out to eat with some guy from New York, I think, and you see like the camera slows down and you see his face get like he's just in the middle of talking and his face gets splattered with blood and it just kind of like you
don't hear anything.
Yeah, and the camera starts to roll normal time again, and the guy next to him got shot. Yeah. So you kind of that whole like I bet you don't even hear it when it happens thing is like they start to like bring it along, and man, I remember seeing that and I was like, wow, this is gonna like that was definitely about the stuff that they're talking about on that boat because
it's a lot of foreshadowing for how it's going to end. It's like really the beginning of the end. That's like the title you could also give this episode, but it's also it's so minor. Like not a lot happens in this episode, but of course, the big thing is when they're playing Monopoly, Tony's making the comments that Johnny was mentioning before of sitting under the boardwalk and talking about guys that Janice had sucked off. And then Bobby's had enough. He tells Tony to stop. And Tony goes, okay. And then continues. And they have this crazy fucking brawl.
Bobby just punches him.
I remember I didn't not see this coming at all. I was like, holy shit. Like those two fucking behemoths fighting each other. And Edie Falco gets hurt in the process, and it's crazy. But
Yeah, that was a wild. Oh man, that was. I remember that was watching that for the first time. I thought it was over for Bobby right there. I
so
was
did
like,
I. I didn't think there was any way he survives.
I didn't see him surviving that episode. I was like, wow, I can't believe this.
Then he gets in the car, and you're like, oh my god, like what the fuck, Bobby? Like, I think it was great too how Tony he can't stomach that he was beaten. Like he says, like, oh, if I hadn't said on this lucky son of a bitch, I would have won. Like he really can't let it go. And his big, comeuppance for Bobby is, I'll punish him per se by making him commit his first hit, because that's another thing they talk about on the boat, that Bobby has never whacked anybody. And so he sets him up to do this hit. They have to kill this guy in Canada. And that's really the punishment. And then the episode sort of ends where Bobby goes up to see his family and they play This Magic Moment.
Yeah, and Bobby
something about it, man, every time. It's just to see the most humble character, the most laid back, chillax character have to do this and betray himself.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just something about it that just really, I was just like, wow, it's mind blowing.
Yeah, it was a really well done episode. It was definitely, man, the whole season six A and B was like really, really dark. Like even the good character like Bobby, he ends up killing somebody and then like loses his like total innocence that he seemed to have throughout most of the show. Because you don't really see him, doing a lot of dirty work. You don't see him doing you don't see him killing people. You don't see him beating people up. Like he doesn't even curse people out. Like he really is like the most mellow tone dude. And you could tell in that scene where he kills the guy in Canada that it really hurts him, that he didn't want to do it.
Yeah, you see it like a part of him dies. Like it's not the same Bobby B that we see after. And sadly, he doesn't, his character doesn't make it very much longer in the show, but it's one of those episodes where you're like, wow,
nobody makes it longer.
No. That's 6B is where you get like a majority of the big character deaths in the show. But I don't know. I thought this was a great way to kick off that final stretch of Sopranos episodes. And I don't know. I definitely think it was worthy of top 10.
For sure.
Yeah. So moving on into the next episode we have on the list. This is the finale of season number 4. This is Whitecaps. JP.
Absolutely. So this one starts off, I believe Chris gets out of rehab, and that was one of the side things that was going on at the time, was that he was in rehab and Patsy was watching him and stuff. So he gets out of rehab and Tony takes Carmela. Carmela's sick too, I believe, and he takes her to go check out this house on the beach called Whitecaps. And originally, I believe they had the lawyer who lived next door, who owned the property, had a buyer, and Tony told him that he was gonna I'll pay cash in 15 days or whatever. And the guy tells him, he calls the other guy on the spot. He was I remember this. He was the guy who was gonna buy the house was a surgeon.
Yes.
So the lawyer calls him right before he goes into surgery, and he's just like, I'm not we can't, I'm not letting you buy the house, blah, blah, blah. And the guy's like, they're arguing on the phone, and the lawyer's a total fucking scumbag. Like, he's just like taking this guy through the ringer. He's telling him he's going to bring him to court and tort him if he wants to bring the sale, so. But fuck that guy. I hated that lawyer, that character that they brought into.
Oh, dude, such a douchebag. You may remember him from a little movie called Rookie of the Year, where it's the kid.
He's in a few. I've seen him in a few things. But I like I said, I couldn't put a finger on it. But
he plays a piece of shit in that too, so it worked out perfectly, I guess. But yeah, no, this one, I think the thing that like my main thing is the brilliant performance from Edie Falco, and this is really where a culmination of 4 seasons kind of comes to payoff. And Tony's been sleeping around, of course. And at the beginning of this episode, they actually have Tony and Carmela. There's a scene of them walking on the beach. And you get the idea that Tony's really happy and he really wants to get this house for her.
Mm-hmm.
He really wants, I think,
Yeah, they really put a together vibe from the beginning of the episode, where he's going to buy them a house. It's going to be for the family. They're going to have a bunch of family time there. And it was like a really positive energy. And then what's I think Irina is the Russian girl's name from all the way back from the first season.
Svetlana was
her cousin. Was the one lady. I think it's Irina Irina is the girl that is the Russian girl that he was sleeping with since season 1. But so she calls the house in this episode. She calls the Soprano home, AJ actually answers the phone.
Yeah.
And being as dumb as he was, he's like, "Who is this?" And she's just like, "Oh, this is the handsome young man." And I was like, "Holy shit! Like this lady is about to like ruin something." And then AJ tells Carmela to pick up the phone. Carmela picks up the phone and she starts telling her how she used to fuck her husband and how Tony's been sleeping with her one-legged cousin and that and
I think. Do you think that
on,
really, more than anything, set off Edie was the fact that Svetlana, because she knew her from when Tony's mother was.
She took care of Tony's mother. That's right. Yep.
So
And
I think part of me thinks that set her off even more so, because I definitely think there may have been a suspicion of it, but then the broken nail and there's a scene where she's talking about Tony about it, and he knows that that's not her nail.
It's that scene, and he's about to. I remember that scene too. It's a great scene. He looks at her and he's about to say that wasn't even her nail, but then he realizes, you know what? I'd have to admit to sleeping with another person that you
exactly.
Don't know, so I can't say anything. And but Edie Falco's performance in that episode was like beyond brilliant, because they usually kill a main character at the end of every season. In that last episode, like something really major happens, but in that episode they really killed the marriage, like, which was
yes.
Like, they hint at it for 4 seasons, but this time it was like Edie said, like, "You're not touching me, get out of my house." Like, right, like it was, you could tell that she was broken, and she was unbelievable in that entire episode.
She was, and I believe they both, her and Gandolphini, won Emmys for this, and that's I think justice, because she in particular, I don't love you anymore, Tony, and she admits that she loved Furio, and for a minute he looks like he's about to fucking knock her lights out, and instead he punches the wall, continuously punches the wall.
That's a great scene. And he tells her about like Svetlana or whatever. He's like, I like her because she has something to say that's not like bringing the chairs or like sign the trust or and he gets really mad. And then she's like, "Oh, what about the other like strippers and the Bing workers that you were fucking over the years? Like you were best friends with all of them." And oh man, she was brilliant. Yeah, but that's when she like fully admits to, like, she never even did anything with Furio, but she admits to fantasizing and like being in love with him and like waiting to see him every single day that he would come to pick him up to drive him. And it was just like, and you could tell that like it hurt Tony's ego more than her fucking anybody, because that was his, like, he's like, you're like, she's like, "Oh, I'm laying in bed with you thinking about him." And that's like, Tony's ego crazy. So that's going to drive him absolutely nuts. And he does almost hit her and he punches through the wall. I'm glad he didn't hit her, because that was probably a thing they couldn't really do. That would have been an ugly scene.
No, and it was really his fuck up. I mean, if he hits her, then he's 10 times more of a hypocrite. And it's like, I actually really like, there's a line I think somewhere where she says, "He made me feel like I mattered." And you get that vibe that Tony doesn't really make her feel very worthy. Like maybe in the first season, like we'll talk about the season finale of season 1 soon. But there's a point in there where he's sitting on the bed and he's kind of telling her everything. I don't feel like you get that much after that. Like, I don't feel like he really tells her much shit in mob wise after that scene, like after that first season. And I think that's a big part of it. It's like he doesn't really value her opinion that much, and he kind of takes her for granted. And I think Edie Falco in this episode, of course, her character, she just kind of puts her foot down, and it's really emotional, man. It's not one of my favorite episodes, because the tone of it is just like, it is like really sad. It's really dark, but it's a very, very important episode for her character, because her character deserved that episode, or that part of the, because she took shit for 4 straight seasons until that, it finally came back to bite Tony in the ass, and she was just like, "You know what, fuck you, like, I'm done." Yeah, no, and I think that was a big thing. They have all this stuff in this episode where he haunts the lawyer guy because he wants his $200,000 back, and the guy kind of tells him, "Oh, you committed to this, and you can't sleep in this house until you."
Yeah, he's playing tough guy, and his wife is like, "What are you doing?" Like,
his wife's like, "That guy's a mobster."
Yeah, he's like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "They know how it works. Like, this is negotiation." And I'm like, this guy.
Dude, if there's ever a time for that guy to have just fucking shut the fuck up and been like, sure, go ahead. Like, that would have been the time. But nope, he could not put his tail between his legs. And of course, they play all the Dean Martin stuff off his porch.
Off on the boat. He sends like little Paulie and Benny to go play the, just bother the hell out of them with their loud ass speakers. I remember he's sleeping in the back house room or whatever that they had like the entertainment system in.
Yeah.
And he has them carrying out these huge speakers, and AJ's like, where are the speakers going? You're throwing them out? And Tony's like, no, they're coming back. Like
borrowing them. Classic.
Oh, also, what happened in that episode was Johnny Sack wants to kill Carmine Gubernatazzi.
Yes.
And him and Tony agree to go along with it and do it. And Tony was gonna have Chris. I think he talks to the usual thing where they go ask two black guys to kill him, as it's gonna be a carjacking or something.
Yeah.
But Tony ends up not going along with it. He tells Chris, like, call it off, whatever, something's not right. And then he has him and Johnny Sack have that like sit down where they meet up, and Johnny Sack is really, really pissed off. And he's like, oh, I'm never going to forget this. He's like, why would I trust anybody to let me stand here holding my cock like this? And he freaks out. And oh man, that was a good scene. But that was like, but all that stuff, like, it's all underneath like the whole episode. Like, it seems like the whole episode is just Tony and Edie just like, and Tony and Carmela rather, just like going at it and just like really splitting up for real. And
it's and we were talking about this over text yesterday. The episode Whoever Did This, that's really the episode where you get that big death. Like you were talking about.
Yeah, that was it.
Season finales having deaths. Instead, in the fourth season, they kind of pull a 360 and they do that death towards like not the end, but one of the last episodes.
Yeah, I think it was I think it was the 9th episode of that season.
So they kill off Ralph Cifaretto there, and then thus they, like you said, they kill off the marriage in this episode, and that's really
they do. Which is like it's the biggest, it's a huge death. It's like the family. That was the whole, because usually at the end of the seasons they always have some sort of big family gathering with, like, especially on the last episode they have in the last scene rather, they always like first season they're in like Artie's restaurant and everybody's together and whatever.
Second season is the graduation.
Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm.
And then this is just like, oh, we're going to be living in different houses. And where you going, Dad? I don't know. Like,
that was, man. And AJ was like, he's like, was it because I asked to come live with you? Like, it's fine. Like, I'll do whatever. And Carmela was like, he asked to live with you. And it was just the whole thing, man. There's also a great, very relatable, like really, really, this is like one of the saddest, like really like relatable sad things in that episode was Meadow when she I believe when like at the end when they're like Tony's about to leave or whatever, she goes upstairs and she's crying or whatever. She has a flashback to her complaining. She was like, God, do we have anything to eat in this house? And she like runs upstairs and she's like thinking about it and she's is crying, and it's just like, wow, that's just because a lot of times you think, wow, I was really overreacting to something small and I'm missing the big picture of what's going on. And I thought that was like absolutely brilliant, like 2-second thing, but means like so much.
Yes, because that's the thought mentality of probably any kid in that situation. It's what could I have done to make sure that this didn't happen? And it's just like the kids shouldn't be thinking that way, but that's the way kids think, And AJ coming blurting out and saying that's like one of the few moments where I'm like, AJ does have a heart in there somewhere.
Oh yeah, no, I think AJ has AJ has some heart, but his brain is just, there's nothing in there. So he's
yeah, no, I'm not a big fan of the AJ. I will say up until this point, this episode, I like the AJ character, and then like the last two seasons.
Yeah, the first two seasons, he's complete innocent kid, just like, just any other kid. Season 3 is when they start getting him involved with like, I think he's like starts throwing. They break into the school pool and they throw the trophies in the pool. Lady Gaga is in that episode as a young
randomly.
Actress. Yeah, so he gets kicked out of school at the end of season 3. That's it. Oh man, but his
fucking character, Jigsaw sends it to tells him about military camp.
Great scene. AJ asks him, he's like, why do why do military guys use that O thing to tell time? And the guy's like, that'll be made abundantly clear to you.
I want to play a game, AJ. But yeah, no, that is Whitecaps. Really great episode. But moving on into number 8, this is of course, a title from, or I guess a verse from the classic Running James Dio song. To save us all from Satan's power. This is to save us all from Satan's power. And
this is one of my personal favorite ones because I'm a mark for flashbacks and dream sequences and like because I just think the show does it so perfectly, and this episode was really focused around Tony thinking about Big Pussy the entire time. It starts with him on the boardwalk, which is real. It's not a dream, but he's on the boardwalk, which is he's usually dreaming on the boardwalk. Like Funhouse has the entire stuff on the boardwalk with him dreaming, and so he's on the boardwalk and he's looking out at the ocean or whatever, and then he has a flashback to him, Jackie Aprile Sr. and Big Pussy at like some diner, and they're talking or whatever, and you could tell that, and it was like you could tell Tony's going through like where he could have realized that Big Pussy was a rat. I think he's beating himself up over it. He's thinking about his friend, and he's like can't get over it. So that one is I know Jackie tells him in the episode, he's like, you gotta stop moving that H, puss. Like you can't do that. It's too dangerous, all this stuff. But and that's one of my personal favorites. Tony has it's Christmas time in the Soprano world.
Yeah, it's like it's actually the Sopranos version of a Christmas episode. Yep. And you know, it's funny, like when you made this list, I felt like the one that's the least talked about is probably this one.
There's no question that this one is probably the one that people who are watching and probably be like, I might have to go, like, you know, I don't really remember that one as much because it's a lot of flashbacks. There's not a lot of plot development. It's just because it's the one before Pine Barrens also. And so the two of those are kind of like, you know, intertwined because you meet the Russian guy in Pine Barrens.
At the bar, yeah.
And yeah, you do. You meet I forget until I watch this one a second time. I was like, holy shit, you meet him in this. I didn't even realize you met him in this episode. So
and me being a big fan of Vincent Pastore's Big Pussy, like I really like this one a lot too. And it wasn't until I rewatched it where, you know, they give some of the vibes that he may have been a rat since like the mid 90s. There's a scene where he's dressed up as Santa and they have that flashback, and I'm just like, oh my God. Like, and it's revealed to us that at least that's my inclination was he wasn't really a rat until the first season, how the first season's playing out. But they have vibes that maybe it was going on before that.
It was, yeah. I think technically, I think they say it in this episode where it's like 95. Like I should have seen it. Like he came back, and it was like but that's when I think that they realized, you know, that's what Tony was thinking about. He also has a like a little notebook like this big, like one of the old classic spirals that flip up and not to the side.
Yeah,
he's like, got the kid's notebook, and he's like. Has like transfer cannolis because he needs to give the guy the money to the Russians or whatever. He has like go get a scooter or something.
He gets the Russian guys. He beats the shit out of them for Janice.
Yeah, Janice steals Svetlana's other leg and because she's a piece of shit, and they beat her up, and then Tony's like, "Oh, why'd you do this? Now I have to retaliate to them." Like he wasn't even mad that she was hurt. He's like, "You did this, and now I have to retaliate."
Just because it would hurt his ego if he didn't do anything. It's not even for her; it's just for his own ego. It's brilliant. It's such good writing.
It's good.
They have Bobby B, of course, take the place of Big Pussy as Santa.
Yeah, they do.
Which is classic. I'm shy. I don't want to do it. This is fuck you, Santa.
Well, the kid's sitting on his lap, and he's like, "Hey," he's like, "You were just here 2 minutes ago. I know you." And the kid's like, "No, I wasn't." And the kid's like, "He's like, yeah, you were. Now you're going on Santa's list, and you get nothing."
Yeah, like, Bobby gets so angry. Like, oh, it's classic.
That is actually. That's a good point. That's probably one of the only like scenes other than that in Soprano whole movies where Bobby's legitimately angry. And he's angry at some kid.
Over nothing. Like, over Monopoly, over fucking kid cutting the line of Santa.
He wasn't as mad that he got shot in the eye by some random kid. Like he wasn't even as mad. He was
not at all.
Kid, though.
Weird guy.
they also bring up in that episode just a small. Again, I love the small, like the little small things that just make the show so good. What's it called? Damn, I'm losing the track of thought early here. So they're in the Christmas party is in Satriale's, and Paulie says, "Oh man, remember back in the day when your old man started this?" Like talking about Tony's father, because the guy, old man Satriale, that owned the meat shop, shot himself, and that's when you kind of and he was like, there was a lot of sadness on the block, Tone, and it's just like, it's crazy to think like, it's something small, but it meant a lot because you realize how really dark that place is. That the guy who owned it killed himself probably over a debt that he owed to Tony's father or whatever. So it's very, I just find stuff like that, like when they fill the gaps like that, I think it's really good. Like shows.
Totally. And this episode does that a lot. And of course, it does have some stuff with Jackie Jr. Of course, he's together with Meadow Soprano at this point, and of course, Tony finds him in the strip club.
Oh, he is, yes.
It beats the holy fuck out of him, which is for every fucking person who hates people like me.
Yeah, for anybody who watches this show, if you like Jackie Jr., I don't know what show you were watching because
he's such an unlikable prick. I hate Jackie Jr., but it's so fun to see him get his ass kicked. And Tony's like, "Come on, put your hands up."
He tells him put his hands up.
Tony, I don't want to do it. I love that scene.
He has the gun too, and he tells him Ralph gave it to him. And then Tony gives I think in the next few episodes, Tony gives Tony's like, yeah, you did all you could for Jackie Jr., like you schooled him, you taught him right, and he gives him the gun that he gave him. He just looks at him and he's just like, you gave him this, you piece of shit. Like,
it's fucking horrible. And that really is, I think, the first of many seeds that they plant where Jackie Jr. sort of, starts his, downward spiral. He does show up, however, at the end of the episode with gifts and
the
forgiveness. And Tony begrudgingly, I guess, kind of, lets it slide. And then they're all sitting. And then, of course, he opens up the present from Meadow, and it's the fish that reminds him of Big Pussy. Brilliant stuff. Like,
it starts with him just thinking about Big Pussy, and then the end of it where you really, because they do a good job of completely taking your mind off of the whole Big Pussy thing and him thinking about him being a rat. Because that was like, they talk about it the whole episode. That's like the big theme in that episode was like, how can I not see it? Like, how could this happen? But at the end, when they go through all the stuff with Jackie Jr., and then to just put that last button in there, they have the Tony open up the fish, and the fish is singing to him, and you could see he's just like petrified. Like, it's so
amazing how that it comes full circle. Like, if it didn't end that way, it would almost make no sense, because it's like all of these things are being built up at the beginning, and then you're like, what could the payoff be? Of course, it's one of the gifts that he opens from, a family member, really. And they play that Christmas music as it kind of pans out. And I appreciate you picking this one for a top 10. I really like this one. This is definitely, I would say, if not the most underrated, one of the most underrated episodes of this entire show, because more people should discuss this one, I think.
Oh, yeah, this one's one of my personal favorites. I love the flashbacks, and I love them filling in stuff from the past that you don't really know about. Yeah. So, man, this one is definitely one of my favorites. I would definitely recommend to anybody that doesn't really remember this one to go back and watch it. It's the season 3, episode 10, I believe. Is the one right before Pine Barrens.
Yes, that's where people always remember Pine Barrens, but this is the precursor. John Brennan says, I take the kid from Rookie of the Year over Robinson Cano. Yeah, I would too. I agree with that. Janice also took Mad Dog Bashan's leg. Oh, shit. Well, Tony didn't find out about that. Coming in, though, at number 7, this was the season finale for the first season. This is I Dream of Ginny Cusimano. Yes, I Dream of Jeannie Cusimano. One of my favorite episodes of The Sopranos, easily. This one's very fresh in the brain. What are your thoughts on this one, man?
Man, this one is this one is right after the Isabella episode where Tony gets shot. So he is coming fresh off being shot, and he has to try and find out who, I think he knows that Junior shot him, got him shot. But so I think it starts with a sit down, I believe, with like all the captains, like Larry and Jimmy, and I think Raymond is his name, one of the other ones. And Tony tells Junior that he thinks it's them. He's like, oh, it's definitely Larry or whatever. It's definitely him. Like, and Junior. So he's trying to get some information out of Junior. They kill Jimmy, the fat Jimmy in that episode. Remember they bring him
They lure him with the prostitute.
Yeah,
He had that classic line about her feet or something.
Oh
like
yeah, he's like, what was it? They have him. He's just like, she's like, wow. He's like, oh yeah, he's like, big tits, little feet, a hitting any man's league.
Fucking only the Sopranos. And like, I like his reaction when he realizes it's a hit. He's like, oh, like, he's a guilty motherfucker.
He goes for his gun, and Christopher like grabs his ankle and he grabs the gun. And Silvio's the one who kills him, and he goes, he tells him, he's like, what's the matter? He's like, why don't you call for help on your radio mic? Rat.
The rat, man, killing rats. And speaking of rats, AJ Zitro's in the house. Hey, it's a rat. I love that. This is something I wanted to ask you too, and I know this is probably more in the Isabella episode of The Realm, but I definitely it's in my brain. Do you think that with Junior, because I know that they pay off the whole Mikey killing in this episode, do you think Junior had Mikey really carry out that hit and be more of the involved party? Do you think that was because of his love for Tony?
Well, you said because you asking if Junior didn't have Mikey do it because of his relationship with Tony.
Like I think Junior, like part of him really loved Tony, and I think that
he did for sure.
I think he definitely has Mikey do most of the dirty work instead of himself because it's so hard for himself. At least that's the vibe I get. That's more in Isabella, but they pay it off here with Mikey's killing, of course, in the track scene where
Mikey's almost his voice though. He's his right hand man. Junior doesn't do a lot of like the talking or the legwork or whatever. So that's that's really why I think that. But it kills them though. You can remember, we will save that for Isabella. But when but this one, it's Uncle Junior, because you could see at the end of this one when everybody gets arrested, like from like not to none of Tony's crew, but all the other crews get arrested.
Yes,
and Junior's in jail or whatever, and he says, on the lawyer's like, just confess that Tony, your nephew, runs things, and you could go free, or he
won't do it.
And he's like, my nephew running things. He's like, not in this life. I remember watching that for the first time, and I love shit like that. So I was just like, count me the fuck in. I thought Junior, I was like, wow, they're going to have Junior flip on Tony. This is going to be terrible. And then Junior's just like, not in this life. And I was like, oh, fuck. This is gonna I remember I was like, oh, I'm ready for season 2, man. This is fucking great. Like,
Junior was not a sellout. Junior was a lot of things.
I was all in. That was great. I thought that was like absolutely beautiful. I was so good. But also a lot of other stuff happens in this episode. Livia, Tony's mother, starts losing her mind.
Yeah, losing her mind.
That's another thing. If we got people in the comments, is Tony's mother, is she faking the act of, because she leaves the nursing home, walks to Tony's house. You remember she's like walking around and she's
screaming for her dead sister.
Yeah, and Conchetta, I think her name is, and she's calling Meadow Conchetta, and she's like, who's Meadow? Who is that? Like, please let us know if you guys think she's bullshitting or is she really losing her mind. And it could be a little bit of both, because that's what I think. I think some of it is completely acting, and I think some of it is like, holy shit, okay, she might not be there. But the big thing that happens in this episode where I think that she's a bullshitter and she knows, and she's
with Artie
playing, is when Artie goes to see her. He goes, Artie brings her the stuff. One of my she's the actress who plays Livia is phenomenal. Like, she's absolutely amazing. And when Artie comes to her and she's and Livia asks her, oh, how's your mother? And Artie goes, she passed 6 months ago, it's real sad. And Livia goes, oh, and she goes, oh no. And she goes, is she still on that crazy diet? Like, send her my regards. And it's just like, I was like, what the fuck is going on? And Artie just laughs it off. He's great too. The actor who plays Artie's fucking awesome. And but she tells Artie in the same scene that she's she like, you don't blame Tony for setting the fire in your restaurant. Like you don't blame him for doing that. And that was like right then I was just like, oh, okay, this is total bullshit. She's just stirring the pot of whatever is gonna make Tony's life hell, and is just like whether it's unconsciously or consciously, she's just trying to ruin his life. And
Yeah, I think she's 100% bullshitting. I really do. Like, and there's a scene, I believe it's this episode where they're sitting at the dinner table together, and they're sort of fucking with her, and
bingo,
Junior,
yep,
Junior
100%.
sort of knows. I don't
He
remember. Is
knows.
that
Yes.
Isabella or is this
Yeah,
episode?
no, this is this episode.
Okay, I thought so.
Perfect. Yeah, he was like, yeah, you're 100% right. He was they're sitting at the table, and I think Tony asked her, he's like, oh, Artie came to see you, right? And she's like,
yes.
Artie? Who's Artie? Where would he come see me? And right away, Tony looks at Carmela, and they both give each other a look like, okay, she's full of shit. And then Junior starts looking at Livia and Tony like, holy fuck, you're blowing this. Like, you are not doing a good job of acting this out. Like, he knew that she was like, blowing their cover for sure.
Yeah, and that's I love that scene because Junior doesn't have to say a word for you to know that he knows that they know, and it's really well done there. I like that scene. I also, of course, probably my favorite scene in this episode. It's a weird one, but Tony comes clean to Silvio, Paulie, and Christopher about seeing a therapist.
Yes, that's a great.
He says he's like, I don't want you to hear this from somebody off the street.
Yep.
I'm seeing a therapist, and he's like, come on, nothing to say.
He's like, you got to say it to me now because like I'm not hearing it from everybody.
It's never being brought up or discussed again. And I love Paulie's like, I was seeing a psychiatrist.
Yeah, once. They never brought that. I think they kind of like knew that probably like they just never brought that up ever again because it was like, I mean, they did like once or twice, but they never really like go into that because it was just kind of like they were like, that's not Paulie's character like at all. Like he was just. Because he mentions it is later in that episode when he's sitting with Sil at dinner, and he goes, I can't get past this. He was seeing a woman. Like it's okay to see a male psychiatrist, but if you see a woman psychiatrist, then you're crazy.
Then it's taboo. Crazy. Yeah, exactly. But that's Paulie. That's the brilliance of Paulie Walnuts. And like I think it was interesting too. Christopher doesn't say a word. Christopher just sort of walks out of the room.
He asks him what he says. What he says is Tony asks him. He's like, you got anything to say? Like, well, what do you think about this? And Chris is kind of confused, and he's like, well, what is it, like marriage counseling? And Tony's like, yeah, kind of. And he's like, he gets up and he just walks out, like classic Christopher. Just get up and just like remove yourself. Oh,
I love that scene. I don't know why. Like, there's something about me that is just like, okay, like he really wanted his guys to know even something he was embarrassed about knowing. And then there's a great scene where he goes to see Dr. Melfi, and you need to get out of town. I'm going to have somebody escort you on a plane. So he goes, I have a life. I have patience. And he goes, well, I ain't going to feel any fucking better if you get clipped. I love that line.
Oh my God. Yeah. She says, he's like, I have suicidal patience. And he's like, they won't feel any better if you get clipped. Oh my God. That interaction and the one from Isabella that we're going to go into because that's later in the top 10, but that was a great scene. And she also, what does he say? Oh yeah. She says, she's like, she realizes, she's like, holy shit, people are going to get murdered, aren't they? And he's like, you don't focus on those distractions. Keep your eye on the ball. Like, oh my God, that's so good.
You have to me, the epic scene and the ultimate like cliffhanger into season 2 where he sees his mother's had a stroke and he runs up to
and he fluffs I remember he goes in there, he fluffs the pill, there's this huge thunder strike, and he's just like, he was probably, had her been alone in her room, she probably would have got smothered. I think that's what he was going there for.
Yeah, you see him fluffing the pillow, and he's ready for it. And, Mr. Soprano, she's had a stroke. He's like, oh, yeah?
He's like, oh, yeah, she had a stroke. He's like, I was a second too late. Like,
yeah, it's funny. Junior getting arrested and her having the whatever stroke saves them both inadvertently. Like, it's kind of funny how that plays out. But I like he threatens her, and it's just like, I remember when I first saw it, I was like, oh, my God, I can't wait for season 2 now. And then, to me, possibly the most important thing in this episode is the final scene where the family, they're driving in the rain and they pull over and they go into Artie's, and Artie's hesitant, but he lets them in. And then, he sits down at the table with his family, and Paulie's there and Silvio's there. And, a lot of their friends are there. It's like kind of lit by candles. It's a great looking visual scene. And Tony says, there's one thing you guys got to do. You got to remember the good times.
Yeah, he's like, if you're lucky, you'll remember the small, you'll remember the little things, like you'll remember the good things like this while we're sitting.
And part of me, like, when I first saw it, I obviously hadn't watched the whole show, but I believe something like that's mentioned in the finale where, AJ says, "Hey, Dad, you remember when you told us to, remember?" That was
when Meadow tells that to Carmela in the finale of season 3 when Jackie dies, and she tells him, because I remember that whole season 3, Meadow and Tony are fighting. It's because of the boyfriend she had or whatever, and the whole season they're fighting. Yeah. But yeah, so she tells Carmela that, she goes, "Mom, you remember when you said that we have to remember the little things and the good times?" And Carmela was like, "Actually, that was your father. That was not me." And Meadow was like, "Wow, I'm my father." Basically, I thought that's what I got from that, was that she's realizing, even though I really don't like him, like I'm just like my dad, and it's just kind of,
Yeah, I it's funny, man. I've heard people say that AJ is more like Tony. Like, people have said that. I don't agree with that at all. What I got from this line, though, and like coming full circle with the show, is in the finale, AJ says that to him. He says, "Dad, don't you remember saying that?"
Oh, yeah.
He says, "No, I don't remember saying that." And like, to me, it's almost like David Chase's social commentary on the Tony Soprano we see at the end of season 1 is a completely different guy than he's lost himself by the finale. I think that's just amazing. I don't know if that was purposely planted there or not, or something that I think it's definitely something he probably wanted to just go back to. But man, that's brilliant stuff. It's enjoy the good times, remember the good times, and then it sort of ends where I can't even remember the good times.
Yeah, it's
eerie, but I don't know. I definitely thought that was something to think about. I love that. To me, this is a top 5 Sopranos episode. I'm glad it's on the top 10.
Oh, yeah, for sure. It's close. There's a lot of good ones.
Dude, that goes to show you how great the show is. Like,
yeah. 7. Dude, yeah, and there's 2 more quick things I want to go for this episode. Was Artie, when he goes to kill Tony with his rifle.
Yes, that's right.
And he goes to kill him, and Tony has to convince him, "I'm not lying to you, Artie. Like, I swear to God, like I swear on my mother, like I'm not lying. I didn't burn down your restaurant or whatever." That was a great scene. Artie was great in that scene. Other one is when they kill Mikey and they go and they chase him in the woods and they kill Mikey Palmisi. And he tells his wife before he leaves, he's like, "Go take a fucking Midol." And then when she's on TV getting interviewed, she's like, "Oh, the last thing he said to me was that he loved me," and all this shit. I was like, oh my God. Every character on David Chase said every character on the show is a liar. And it is like when you could just realize that, like, the show just is so good.
That scene was, I love that. And Paulie Walnuts gets the fucking poison ivy, and he's like, "Motherfucker!" And they shoot the shit out of the guy.
He's just like, "It's itching already," and he's like, he's shooting him. At the end of it, he's like all white in his face, and his hands are all covered in poison ivy. Oh my God, it's great,
bro! Absolute riot. I love this one. One of my favorite episodes of The Sopranos. A great pick. Coming in at number 6, though. Perhaps one of the most important episodes in the history of the show. I will go out on a limb. I'll say this is the most important Sopranos episode, considering what it did for television for years to come. Coming in at number 6, it is season 1, episode 5's College. Yes, College. Dude, what are some of your... Oh, before you do, AJ says, "I keep thinking JP's Cobra Kai."
Iris, baby. Roberto.
Sweep leg, sensei.
Oh, man. But this one, yeah, this is the episode where when I first was watching the show, like, it was good. And then this episode was just like, it felt like a movie, because Tony takes Meadow to go on college tours. And that's what I love about this show, is that this has nothing to do with mob life, nothing to do with really, like, but he's just taking his daughter to go to college and to go to admissions tours and go do whatever. And that's like, and that's what makes the show so special, is that there's not a lot of shows where they can pull this off and really have
this show. I don't think any show other than The Sopranos did standalone episodes better than this. Like Pine Barrens is remembered way more than the episode we just talked about.
Yep.
Yet how many other things happened in the episode we just talked about? But Pine Barrens is more memorable. It's the 100%. Standalone ones that they just knock it out of the park, man. This is no exception.
Yeah. So Tony's taking Meadow to college, and in the very beginning of the episode, I believe that she just turns to it. She's like, you could see she's thinking about it, and she's like thinking. She looks at him, and she's like, "Are you in the mafia?" And he looks at her, and he looks like he saw 3 ghosts, and he's like, "Holy shit!" Like, what? And he's just like, and he ends up. I think he tells her, he's like, "What?" He's like, "That's total crap. Who told you that? Like, there is no mafia." And Meadow's too smart for that shit. She's just like, come on, like, are you gonna keep lying to me like over and over? Can we actually like have this conversation? And he ends up telling her, I think he tells her that some of his income comes from illegal gambling, and she was like, all right, at least you admit to something. Like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, I know. It's funny. Like, this whole episode really revolves around their relationship and with them opening up to each other. Like, he tells her that, and then in turn, we were talking about before we went live on here, is there's a scene where they're sitting having dinner, and she says, hey, I did speed with my friends before. And in a weird, sick way, them discussing their darker sides and shit they've done behind the other's back, it actually is bringing them a little bit closer. And I really like that motif. It's really well done.
And it shows that Tony's really off the ball, because he's like, Jesus, right under my nose. Like, how could I not see this? And I was like, how would you expect to see that? Like, how do you expect to know? Because you're like, they're so distant, it feels like, and now they're, getting closer. And it's that was the scene with them in the restaurant, and they're talking. And it's really, really dark, and it's like they're only their faces are really lit up. It's shot so well. It's so well done.
Yeah, it is. And then of course there's the I forget the character's name of the guy he actually kills in this episode. This is the only, forgive me, folks, this is the only one I did not get to rewatch for show prep, so I might be a little bit rustier on this one. Although this is a masterpiece of episode. What is the guy's name that he's?
I know. I don't know what his original name, but I know when he changed, because he went into witness protection or something, and then he changed his name. Is Frederick Peters, I think. Okay. And he was like an ex-mob guy. He was close with Tony's father and like some of the guys back in the day. And Tony sees him at a gas station, like in the middle of Maine, and he is and Tony immediately. I remember this was like such a weird thing for the episode, but Tony makes Meadow get in the car, and then they start like driving after him.
Yes, and he realizes he's like, shit, I can't kill him with her in the car.
He's going in the other lane, and he's like going back and forth. He's going the wrong way down the road trying to catch this guy, and she's like, Dad, what are you doing? Dad, you knew that guy at the gas station, didn't you? And he's just like, no, I'm just having fun. Just just doing a little crazy stuff. And you could just tell, it was so awkward. Brilliantly awkward for like the both of them. And then she's telling him, turn left, Dad, turn left. And he turns right, and he's like, you see, you keep on talking to me and making mistakes. And I was like, wow, like this is all, but this one is like absolutely phenomenal. Also, there's like 2 things that the 2 major storylines that go side and side here are Tony and Meadow going to college and going around looking at colleges. And then you have what's going on at the Soprano home, which is Father Ententola, Father Phil, comes over and has a nice sleepover with Carmela Soprano
to play a game of Name That Pope.
Yes. Well, oh my God, that is. And I remember she was crying to him at some point. She's like, Father, I'm a terrible person, like this, that, and the third. And Father's like, no, you're wonderful. Let me give you communion. And then he breaks out the sacrament kit, and he gives her communion. That's like some of the funniest fucking shit. Like, how does this guy, he has a fucking sacrament. Like, I know he's a priest, but like they carry around communion in the trunk. Like, is that what they do? They carry around sacrament kits in case spiritually thirsty women want to take communion. Like, oh my God.
And he's a sick fuck, man. Like, he's sort of getting off on the fact that it's fucking weird.
Actually, in the one that we were talking about last, the I Dream of Jeannie Cusimano, Carmela actually tells him, that was the episode she tells him off. She's like, all you do is like mooch off, like you come here for the steaks. Like she says, I
Because
think
yeah,
she
she
said,
sees Rosalie with him, and then she
well,
dumps all the pot that she brought.
Rosalie gives him Jackie's watch, and that hurt me. I love Rosalie April. Sorry, Kara, for I know she's probably watching, but that's literally like she was the best. Like, she's my favorite woman character on the show. Was Rosalie April. She had a small roles, but she was absolutely great. But she gave him his watch, and that's what set Carmelo off. Carmelo was jealous. Carmelo was like, "Wow, like, I don't have a grip on this guy like I thought." And then and then she tells him off in that last episode. But that was from last episode. Going back to this one, they are like watching movies, and she takes communion, and they're about to kiss, and then he gets like sick, right? And then he goes to the bathroom, and he's like starts like throwing up or whatever, and he sleeps over that night, and she's like, "Oh man, that was." I was worried that Tony was going to kill a priest in that episode, because I was like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, and like it's funny because it starts all harmless, and then it starts where you're just like, well, where are they going? I'll be honest, when I first watched this, I was like, yo, is she gonna do something with this fucking priest? Like, what the fuck? Like, I thought it was weird.
And then he gets sick, and
yeah, he conveniently gets sick, and then that's that. But I think the main thing with this episode is how they execute I didn't mean to throw Bret Hart references in here. How they execute the execution of when Tony kills this guy that he's hunting. The whole way it's directed is so eerie. I don't know how they fucking do it. They create this mood, this vibe that I mean, don't get me wrong. This is a show that's directed fantastically. I mean, there's so many good. John Patterson, Jack Bender, I believe Alan Colter, he might have been the director of this episode. Timothy Van Patten, some really, really good directors. But I think this one, from a direction standpoint, how this is executed is probably my favorite directed scene in the history of The Sopranos. It's so well built up to. Even the guy, he tries to convince these two druggies. They're like, oh, can you help me out with this? And they're like,
he wants him to kill Tony, and because the other guy can't do it. I remember Tony. This shows like the times rather that this is going on in. Excuse me, Tony leaves Meadow at the restaurant with some random girls that she met there. Go try and kill this guy. So like that just shows like this is still the 90s, where like people are just leaving their kids in some random college town and going off and doing whatever. But he goes to hunt this guy. Tony's looking all over town for him, and there's this great scene where he finds the guy's like a travel agency or something, and he shuts his car off and the headlights stay on. And he gets out and he's walking in front of the headlights, like going through the light of the headlights, and you just see his like shadowy figure just walking in the weeds. And it's like, I don't know what it is about it, but it's such a great shot. Like, it's unbelievable. I love it.
Yeah, we were talking when we first watched this. I'd said to you, I was like, this is almost like how horror is directed, like really good
100%.
horror, building up to that execution of the kill, and it's fantastic. And I know I watched an interview with David Chase where he claimed not only was this his favorite episode, and fun fact, Papa Grande, this is my dad's favorite episode of The Sopranos.
Wow, really?
Yeah. I was talking to him earlier in the week. I said, Dad, favorite episode of Sopranos? He was at college, hands down. I was like, oh shit. So you got two, number one for college. He had to fight to have him strangled like he was going to be strangled.
When he goes to kill him and he strangles him, he tells him, because the guy found Tony also. Like, it's a forgotten about thing. The guy that Tony was trying to kill realized that someone was coming after him, for one way or the other. And he had his gun pointed at Tony and Meadow when they were about to go into the hotel room, like really late. And he tells Tony while he's strangling him, he's like, I saw you with your daughter. Like, I could have killed you and I didn't. And Tony's like, well, you should have, because I'm going to kill you now. And that's Tony's first kill in the entire series that you see him do. So you really like, it just changes the character's complexion completely. Like, you see him murder this guy with his bare hands while Meadow is at some admissions office trying to get into school, and he's literally bleeding his hands off, strangling this guy. And
I think it was not only the most important thing an episode probably for Tony's character, but it was important for television. It was really like a revolutionary moment in television because before the Sopranos, like you always had the white and black area. You didn't really have any gray area, and this is really where the anti-hero just jumped off the map. Is this episode right here? We were talking about Dexter and Breaking Bad and shows like we were saying at the beginning that take from this. I don't think those shows exist without this because he is just that. He's an anti-hero. When you see him brutally murder that guy,
you're rooting for the bad guy. For the it's crazy. But this was a really, really good one. This was one that had to be on the top 10 for sure. This was, if you don't remember this one, you gotta go watch this one. This one is a masterpiece. This is one of my favorites for sure.
Love it. Totally love College. To me, absolute masterpiece. I agree with you wholeheartedly.
For sure.
So moving into the top 5 now. Holy shit. Top 5 Sopranos episodes, ladies and gents.
Top 5. It's about to get real detail-y. This
one might be my second favorite of the entire. Like this is, oh my god, I fucking adore this episode.
This is definitely a fan favorite one that everybody just like, no matter what seasons you like or you don't like, this is one of the best, like, most jaw-dropping episodes of the entire series. It is. This is like phenomenal. This is spotless. This is like one of the few episodes that I literally, like, start to finish, there's nothing that is like out of place. There is nothing that's like you question or whatever. It is like it's like flawless, the entire thing.
Yeah, and I would say that it's one of the 2 most grand Sopranos episodes that have the most in it that makes you think and know why you love it. And it is none other than, coming in at number 5, it is Isabella. Yes, Isabella. One of my all-time faves. And I would say, like, you were saying to me, College was the episode you saw and it made you the biggest fan of the show, and really, that was the jump launch pad point for you. I would say this is the episode that did that for me, because I just was like fucking astounded when I watched this. I was like, wow, this is fucking
this is when you watch this episode, you are like, how do they come up with this? Like, how can they possibly like get this down and write this? It's like, it's genius.
I was telling you yesterday, I'm low-key jealous of it. Like, I'm jealous of this episode. Like, why can't I think of something this fucking good, man?
Dude,
like,
it's amazing. But this episode starts, basically, the whole thing is actually centered around Tony's medicine. Like, he's carrying every scene that he is hallucinating, but he's carrying around the lithium and the Prozac with him, like, at all times. It's always in his hands, which is very weird because they never do that with anything else in the show. But he always had it. But it starts with him. He gets out of bed. Like, Carmel's yelling at him because he won't get out of bed. And he gets out of bed finally. And he looks out the window and he sees this, like, young Italian woman next door. So he goes to talk to her or whatever. And so that was just like, I think that's how it starts. I think he just goes and talks to her. I think he gives her back like some clothing or whatever. Which
anything
is like,
to make conversation.
Spoiler for anyone who hasn't seen it. This girl he's imagining her, like, the entire interactions, all of them, which there are a few of them, but they're all hallucinations. Which is like, you're like, wow, like, holy shit, like, what kind of show is this? But it's crazy. But but this is also the episode that Tony gets. Like, it's the first time where someone tries to kill Tony, like, for real, like, someone, like, the guys come and shoot him at the newsstand when he's getting in his car or whatever. But before that, one of my favorite one lines from Uncle Junior, and they're at this woman's wake, and it's an older woman.
Oh yeah,
and you already know. And he looks, and Junior's just looking at this woman. He's just like, oh, he's like, this woman. He's like, me and this other guy, he's like, gave me my first hand job behind the chicken market. Like, and he's just like, God, Jesus, what am I saying? Like, and I was just like, the humor that, like, the raw, like, dark humor in this show is just fucking amazing. It's just like, how the fuck can you say that? You're staring at this woman's body and you're like, oh, she gave me my first hand job on the chicken mart. Like,
That was the first thought that came to his head, I guess. I don't know, man. It's
And he also said something that I said when I was younger, which I was seeing ghosts when I heard him say this, because he said he says some of the prayer cards. He says oh yeah, I never understood why people never collected prayer cards. Like you get at wakes, like people collect baseball cards. And I remember saying the exact same thing when I was younger. I was like, why do I have so many baseball cards, but like no one collects these prayer cards for people's wakes and stuff. And it was just, and he says he goes thousands of bucks for Honus Wagner, jack shit for Jesus, huh, Mike? And oh my god, why? Like, just so brilliant. That scene is absolutely brilliant. And Mikey's telling him that they're gonna kill Tony at the newsstand or whatever. So I think it goes right into the two guys trying to go kill Tony at the newsstand, and Christopher is worried about Tony because he says, oh, he's depressed or whatever. So Chris follows him to the newsstand that day while the guys are trying to kill him, and he inadvertently, without knowing, stops them. Yeah, you remember that, right? When he goes there and he tells the guy,
yeah, he's like, they're like, move, we have a badge, and he's just like, fuck you. Like, it goes to show you the balls of Christopher Moltisanti, man. He did not give a fuck.
Yeah, that was crazy. Oh man, that was crazy. But but then after the next day or whatever, he goes back. They shoot him. Tony, they get into like a scuffle. I don't know how he didn't get shot. I mean, it's very it's crazy, but he grabs the guy, and then the other guy that came onto the other side of his car shot his friend in the head on accident because he missed Tony, and Tony ends up driving away and crashing his car, and then he's in the hospital, and I believe just Carmelo was with him in the room, and then Agent Harris comes in and he starts telling them like, oh, you can go into witness protection, this is not going to stop. And Tony's like, fuck you, go away, whatever. And he's like, Carmelo's like, Tony, we should probably do this. And he goes, I took an oath, Carmela. And she goes, what the fuck are you, a kid in a treehouse? Brilliant line from her. But man, that's a crazy thing. And then AJ says, only smart thing he says is the entire series is he goes, I don't believe it was a carjacking. And like Meadow puts his arm around him, puts her arm around him or whatever. That was deep stuff for a kid that realizes his dad almost got killed. So that was big. A big episode.
Most definitely. I there's something about this episode too that when I was saying before how you can't judge a book by its cover, and when it starts, I'm just like, okay, he's another lady that he finds attractive. This is before I know that she's an illusion.
Yes, yep.
A beautiful fucking Spanish woman hanging her clothing, and I'm interested. I'm like, okay, where's this going to go? And he keeps sort of running into her and having these very interesting conversations, and they're eating lunch, and she mentions she has a child named Antonio, and I'm like, okay. And you start to realize that she's sort of the maternal figure that he desires. Like it starts as though, I'm thinking a sexual fantasy, because who wouldn't want that lady in your sexual fantasy? But then you're just like, oh my God, there's so much more to this, which is exactly what I think to the core of The Sopranos is. There's so much more to it than what meets the eye.
Yeah, that's what David Chase says. It's really a psychological show. It's not like a crime show. It's really a psychology show because it's just so brilliant. But Melfi brings that up to him because when he's out to eat with the woman Isabella, he has a hallucination imagination where he's just like dozes out, and she sees her with the baby or whatever, and she's breastfeeding the baby or whatever, and then Melfi tells him that imagination, that was you wanting that baby was you, and she was your mother, and that's like Tony was like, what the fuck is going on?
And she hit the nail on the head. That's exactly what it is. Yeah. And it's what's I think is brilliant is at the very same time, Junior and Livia are wanting Tony dead. And then, of course, this whole hit takes place and the whole rest of the episode plays out. It's weird that of all the times to have this sort of fantasy, it's right before a hit is placed on him. And this is the thing that he sort of yearned for. And it really showed me that The Sopranos is so much more than just, like you said, a crime mob show. It's so much more with the psychology. I think Isabella is one of the best episodes of this series. It's just absolutely, every time I think about the concept, I'm just like, dang, like I wish I could have thought of something this smart, like to do it, use the fantasy as something more than just sexual, as to bring it to our lead character, connect it to him, and then come full circle with the whole hit thing. Really smart stuff. I think Isabella is a fucking 11 out of 10 episode. Really.
Oh yeah, and also my favorite scene between Tony and Melfi, my favorite scene in the whole series is when she goes, like, she has to go meet up with Tony in her car because because it was after the shooting or whatever. And she asks him, like, how are you feeling? And Tony's like, well, I actually feel kind of good. And he's like, he goes, talk about like a jolt, talk about like a jump start to the system, like try getting shot at. And it was just like that scene with the two of them in the car was just like, I don't know what about it, but it was just like, it was so like, it seemed so real, so raw. And it was just so like such a good scene because he's almost gets killed, and then when he's really, really depressed, and then he's finally, it's almost like it brought him out of it. And he's like, holy shit, like, because he goes, every fiber of my being wanted to live, and I was fighting to live. And that's like, it's deep, deep stuff.
It is. I love Isabella. Probably my second favorite episode of Sopranos. I fucking love this one. Huge fan. So moving on though into number 4, LTP, as you call it, otherwise known as long-term parking. I believe this might be your favorite episode of all of them.
This is probably my personal favorite. This is a lot of stuff goes on in this one. This is a wild episode. It starts, I think, Adriana's like sick in the doctor's office, and the doctor tells her that she's gonna give her some steroids or something, and she's like, the ones for weightlifters. It's just the humor. I'm like, oh my god, that's so funny. And then Phil Leotardo, because in the episode, Phil's brother Billy got killed by Tony B. So, because we don't get shown that in the episode before, which is test stream, we don't get shown that. So you see Phil sitting, he's having coffee, and he has the flashback to whatever day, and his brother got killed. So that ends up playing a huge role for end of 5 and to the end of the season, because Phil never ever really forgives Tony for that.
No.
So that happens, but man, that was the big sit down happens in New York where Johnny Sack has his boss moment where he goes like, you either deliver him to my doorstep or I will rain a shitstorm down on your family like you have never fucking seen. And that was, oh man, that was when I was like, wow, they have their fucking hands full, because this guy's not playing around. That's an intense stuff, but the main focus of this episode is Adriana's character, which tragically comes to an end at the end of this episode. But I thought it was actually too long of a time coming, because they started her like with her working with the FBI in the beginning of season 4, I believe. I believe that's when they like started like bringing her. I believe. Because when was Danielle in the show, the FBI agent?
I believe that was like first few episodes of season 4.
Okay, yeah, because that's really, yeah, that is where, actually, you know what? It might have been season 3.
Well, actually, season 3?
No, season 3 was the lamp that they put into the basement.
Yeah, Meadow takes the lamp.
I think after the lamp got neutralized, I think that's when they brought Danielle in to try and get something else going. I think that's what happened.
Now let me ask you this: do you think now when they brought Danielle in and Adriana, they set her up and stuff, do you think if at the beginning of that, if she maybe went to Tony early, do you think that he could have gotten things straightened away, or do you think the minute
Oh yeah, like absolutely. If she just came to them right away and said, "Hey, like I got arrested for this drug thing or whatever," I remember it was like a drug thing in the club. That's why they were like. So, I really think that she, because I honestly think that they were gonna tell her like, "Listen, you should probably just take this." Like, they'd probably be like, "Listen, we'll take care of you, but you're gonna have to." go face the law for this because you're not like you can either die or you could like or we'll work with you. So, but I do think that if she went to Chris and Tony like right away, I think that I don't think she would ever. I don't think it would
I
ever.
feel that way too. I never asked you that because honestly, the first time I watched it through, I wasn't thinking that, and it takes so long for her to die. I guess I forgot to ask, but I think the
Yeah,
same thing.
it's
I think if she
like
went to them early, might have been straightened away. I really do think that.
yeah, because she really wasn't in. The thing is, other thing with this episode is that they go into the guy dying in the club because they couldn't. That was the whole thing was that they really didn't have anything on Adriana. Like they really didn't. Like they had no like pressure on her to make her talk. So like they needed to add that in there for her to really like crumble under the pressure. So they added her like that. Remember that guy like
The
Matouche,
fat guy, and she walks in on
yeah,
them, and
the foreign guy like kills one of them or something. So that happens, and then the FBI finds out, and they start questioning her, and then they take her and like they hold her for a really long time, and they make her like agree to either flip or go to jail for a really long time. So that was really oh man emotional stuff, but
it
this
is, and then like I think there's an interesting scene in there where Adriana, she's talking to Chris, and Chris had just had a fight with Tony about something, and she tries to like make him flip with her. She's like,
yeah,
"Listen,
that's when she it was when they're out to dinner and Tony took some business away from Chris because Chris fucked it up or something, and he's like, and Chris was like really pissed, like hugely pissed. Like he had to share it with Paulie, I think, which is even worse because him and Paulie are just like they always butt heads. So he was really pissed about that. And I remember he was like screaming, and Adriana was just, and then she tells him, like, listen, like this has been going on for like a year and a half, 2 years, whatever. And Danielle was an FBI agent. And then that scene with the two of them is like Emmy worthy. That scene was like brutal to watch because Chris chokes her out and she's like crying as she's choking him out. And it's like the acting between the two of them is like absolutely unreal. It could
I
like
love how he can't do it. Like he can't bring
like
himself to kill her.
I think that scene is better than the Tony and Carmelo scene in Whitecaps.
It probably is.
I would go to lengths to say that because that was the one because there's no violence between Tony and Carmela, but Chris is always physical with Adriana, and the two of them, and as soon as he's done choking her, he like sits back, puts his hands in his heads, and he's like, oh my god, what are we gonna do? And she just goes over to him and like hugs him because she knows like they're both fucked. And man,
I think Adriana too is just such a sympathetic character, like because she really was head over heels in love with Christopher, and I think that's why a lot of people love Adriana. She really did love this guy, and she wants him to flip, turn his back on everything he's ever learned and known for her, because she would do that for him, and there's that great scene where he goes to the gas station and he sees he's pumping gas. He sees the family from across the way.
Yes.
And in a way, I think he's looking at like what he thinks his future would be, barely scraping
100%.
by. And I think it scares him. And I think he thinks I'm the mobster,
right there. He realizes he's like, all I want to be is a cowboy. Like literally, he's watching this guy with his family and his kids with these bags of chips and like a beat up car, and he's like staring, and he's like, and he gives like Michael Imperioli, who plays Christopher, was absolutely fucking amazing in this episode, and he's just like his face shows nothing, and you don't see him again until until everything concludes after, and he's like basically what happens is he agrees actually before that he does that. He agrees with Adriana. He says, you know what? I'll work on my memoirs. We'll flip. We'll do this. We'll go away together. Like, I love you. And then I was shocked. I was heartbroken when I heard that. I was like, oh man, like this might be really bad. And then he leaves and he goes to the gas station and he sees that family. And then he's that eyes wide stare. And
he sees that mirror image and he's like, that can't be me. I'd rather stay where I'm afforded all these luxuries. And in retrospect, it was probably the worst call he could have made. Like when I think about it, it's like maybe he would have been better off staying with her. Man, maybe he still would have got killed.
He would have. Yeah, in real life, that's like you would have had a better option doing that. But after after that fact, Adriana gets a call from Tony on the payphone, and he says, "Listen, Chris tried to kill himself, and he's up at Ramapo or whatever, and you gotta come. You got, Still's gonna come pick you up, and he's gonna come, bring you wherever." And this is another point about this episode. Earlier in the episode, Tony and Adriana have their last face-to-face scene, and you don't realize it until you rewatch it, because you don't realize she's gonna die. That you could tell that this was like a goodbye scene between the two of them. He was just like, "All right, like, take care. I'll see you later." Here, when he's talking to her on the phone, he tells her at the end of it, he goes, "All right, I'm heading up there now. Sill's gonna come get you, and I'll meet you." And he's the last thing he says to her is, "I'll see you up there," which I would put all my money on it that David Chase threw that in there because of what happens in the last episode, and Tony's saying, "All right, I'll see you up there," and which, see you up there. So that's what he was getting at when he said that.
I never picked up on that. That's interesting.
That was something I remember. That was something I watched the second time when he goes, "I'll see you up there," and I was just like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, holy shit, that's all.
Wow. Now I'll be definitely looking out for that when I rewatch.
Oh, dude, yeah, you got it. If you don't like, that's watching the way he says it too, you have to watch it. It's so eerie. It's so good. I was like, oh man, that's dark. Like,
it's a heartbreaker when you see Silvio kill her too. I mean, she crawls away, and it's like so like, oh my god, because you really feel terrible.
Oh yeah, that's why they don't show it. That's like one of the only deaths they really don't show on screen or whatever, because they couldn't show that. That was definitely one of the hardest ones. And then afterwards, Chris starts snorting heroin again. Right after that, and Tony beats him up in the Bing. Afterwards, he said, like, "You're the only one going through this," or whatever, and he beats Christopher up. Oh man, that was like really, really dark stuff. That was like, ugh. That was I know a lot of people don't like that one because of how dark it was and how they shouldn't have killed Adriana or whatever. But like, man, this is one of them. This is probably my favorite episode. There's a lot going on, a lot of foreshadowing. Oh, dude, it's unreal.
I don't get any gripes that somebody could have with this. I think it's a fucking masterpiece too.
Also,
long-term parking is fantastic.
Also, another big piece of this episode is, or a small piece, but big detail is, Tony calls Tony B while he's or Tony B calls Tony while he's away or on the lam, and Tony tells him that he didn't get jumped when they were younger, and he had a panic attack after having a fight with his mother, and that's why he didn't go on the job that Tony B got sent away for, and he because he's holding that in for so long, and he finally tells him. And Tony B was like, he couldn't believe that, that's why he was doing this and this for him or whatever. Oh, it was a really, really over the phone, but a really good scene between the two of them. That was a lot.
Tony B was fantastic character, and like, I like the shit. I believe it's the shit with him and you were saying Phil and Billy Attardo, where they show Billy getting shot. And Phil,
in the beginning, yep, yeah.
That's a great. I always thought that was a really, really well done sequence, and it's like an alley and fucking really good stuff, man.
Also,
Tony B is a great character.
Also, Tony and Carmela get back. He moves back in this episode. Also,
yes, that's right.
And it's very interesting that they do that, where Tony moves back in, and Adriana and Christopher split, which is like, it's just the ire, the yin and yang or whatever. It's crazy. That was,
it starts with a couple that broke up coming back together, and it ends with a couple that's been together.
Ends the last scene is Tony and Carmela in the woods looking at the land that Tony had to buy Carmela in order for him to move back in.
Oh my god, yeah, like the $600,000 I was just like, Jesus Christ, like, you could have saved yourself a lot of money, dude, if you just fucking did this sooner. But
that was the last scene, was them in the woods together, and that was like, just the irony behind that, because Adriana was killed in the woods, and that was, the irony behind that was awesome. That was so well done. That's probably my personal favorite. It is like unbelievable start to finish. You like when the stuff, because when you realize the stuff with Adriana is happening, it is like, it's really the entire episode's make or break, which I love. That high tension You know, it's great.
Oh, it's fantastic. Long-term parking is, and I've noticed. I looked. It's one of the highest rated episodes. So I definitely think there are a few
Oh yeah,
do not, not get into it. But this next one, though, it is easily the highest rated episode of Sopranos anywhere you look.
everybody knows
Possibly
what's
the
coming.
most famous episode on the show. At number 3 on our list, it comes in. It is Pine Barrens. Yes.
Take him down to the Pine Barrens.
Today, we're just two assholes stuck in the woods.
Dude,
Pine Barrens, one of the quintessential, possibly the most famous, Sopranos episode of all time. And like we were saying before with standalone episodes, it's possibly the most infamous standalone episode of any show ever.
This is definitely the I think this is definitely the most famous episode that the show ever put together, because there's a lot of people who don't watch The Sopranos that know about this episode, that they're like, oh, that episode they bring the guy to the woods or whatever, and it's like it's really, really famous. And even on like all-time show lists or all-time TV lists, they bring this episode up as like one of the best television episodes ever. And Steve Buscemi actually directed it,
which is crazy. We were talking about Tony B, and that's the thing I get from this episode right off the bat, is that it almost feels like it's directed by the Coen brothers. And weirdly enough, you get a guy that's a longtime collaborator with the Coen brothers, whether it be in movies like Fargo or movies like The Big Lebowski, which I know we love. Fucking Donnie directs this episode.
Shut the fuck up, Donnie.
Shut the fuck up. He was a pederast, Walter. What's a pederast? Shut the fuck up, Donnie.
Oh my God, that's a good one.
It's crazy, but like, it's so fucking well directed. And then, like, again, we were saying, like, not that much happens. Like, I know you
really, it really is just like, I know the stuff with him and Gloria is going on at the time, which that's the least interested I've ever been in any of the parts of the show, which I'm interested in pretty much all of it, is the stuff with him and Gloria, because Gloria is so much like his mother, which is what they're trying to do. But I just like, it's hard to watch because you can just tell Tony's just like, it's almost like he's cutting himself being with this woman. Just like,
she throws the steak at his fucking head.
That was this one. Yeah, he throws a steak at his head. Oh man, but so the background is the Russian guy that we meet in the To Save Us All from Satan episode is, he owes Sil $5,000 for God fucking knows what reason. He owes Sil $5,000. And the reason why this whole thing starts actually is because Tony calls Paulie and he says, you have to go collect this $5,000 for Sil. He has the flu and he's sick. And Paulie's like, are you fucking kidding me? He's got the sniffles and I got to go get his money. And he's like, so him and Chris go get the money from the guy. And Paulie just I think he had like a remote or something. He threw it on, he broke the guy's shit. And the guy got really mad. And then Paulie just like attacked him or some shit. And then there we go down to the podcast. Yep. And from there they drag him, they wrap him up in a rug, put him in Paulie's trunk, and they drive him down to Pine Barrens because Paulie wants to go to AC after to play blackjack. That was his reason. He's like, yeah, we'll go to Morton's, grab a steak, and then play some blackjack. And they go to Pine Barrens, and at the end, remind me to go through Michael Imperioli, the guy who plays Christopher's theory on this. That's what I wanted to bring up for this one.
Sure.
Not his theory, actually, what David Chase was going to write in for the Russian guy.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. Okay, I definitely know what you're talking about.
Yeah. So they bring the guy down to Pine Barrens, and the most famous line in probably the entire show happens when Tony calls him. He's like, this guy is this guy was like a high level military guy. He killed 16 Czechoslovakians single-handed. And Paulie looks at Chris and he goes, this guy killed 16 Chechen rebels. He was an interior decorator. And Chris his house looked like shit. And that is like the best. That's probably the most famous line in the whole show. That was like, oh, I remember laughing for like the next 10 minutes after Christopher said that. That's like just the beauty of the show.
It's probably the funniest episode. Like it has the most memorable one-liners of them eating ketchup packets and I'll leave you out here with one shoe, asshole, and the fucking it's hilarious, man.
They're chasing the guy. The Russian guy hits Christopher in the head with a shovel, which is how he gets away. And he's like, I bathe in ice water. This is fucking warm to me. He's like, I don't feel cold. And he's like freaking out. Oh my God. That is seriously, that is, everybody knows about that one, but it's one of the best, like comedic episodes. Like it is just like start to finish. Bobby shows up to go with Tony to go find them in the big head to toe in camo gear. Tony's laughing at him. And Bobby's like, what, I got to get my balls broken too? I got up in the middle of the night for this?
One time we went hunting, we saw a sign that said van left, so we went home.
Oh my God, that's great. Yeah,
it's so fucking masterful. Like the whole, did they shoot and kill the Russian? Did they not? That's whole left up in the air. At the end, their car is gone. The money's gone.
The thing. Tony parks his car exactly where Paulie left his. So Paulie's car was gone. Between whatever that day and the next morning, Paulie's car was gone. Like that's something that I think is pretty confirmed by that because he parked it in the same spot. So, but it did look like Christopher or Paulie shot the Russian guy and he just somehow squirmed away and got away.
I believe there's an episode later in the series where they're talking about, we shot him and his brains went flying everywhere.
Yeah, and they're both lying. And then Christopher goes, what happened when you lost your shoe? And they're like, you didn't tell us that, Paulie. And he's like, watch it, Chrissy.
I think this is one of the best character episodes too. Like when
this is because Christopher, as much as they try to build the Tony-Christopher relationship, the bigger connection is always with Paulie and Christopher. Like it is not even close. Like the two of them from the beginning to the end have that real relationship. Where Tony, it's almost like forced because he wants him to do things for him and he's his nephew and whatever. But with Paulie and Christopher, the two of them, they share like common, like being stepped over, being kind of looked at sideways. Like it's the two of them share so much in common. It was only right that I think it was absolutely perfect that they had.
And I think what proves what you just said with the fact that Paulie and Christopher were closer is the episode where Christopher dies. I believe there's a scene where Paulie is like, maybe I didn't do my best towards that kid.
That was one of the most, it sounds crazy, one of the most jaw-dropping moments of the entire series for me was when Paulie says that, when he goes, hey, maybe I didn't treat that kid right. Maybe I was too hard on him. And you show anyone that's watching this, please find me another sympathy Paulie scene. Please.
None. There's none.
Zero. It's zero. That man, he found out that his mother was not his real mother, and then he tried to disown the woman that took care of him.
And even in the episode before Christopher dies, he drives on Christopher's lawn and destroys everything. And the next episode, maybe I was too tough on the guy. Like, why? I
remember that was emotional. That was one of the things that was just like, holy hell! Like that was just like, that was hard. That was a tough one.
Really hard. No, I agree with you. And I don't know. It's just, I love that their interactions in this episode. And it's funny to me that the most famous episode of the show, Tony Soprano's a side character in this episode. Really.
He is. No, really,
Christopher
that shows the brilliance of this show, is that the most famous, the best episode ever. Because there's really the two things that go along with the show is Tony Soprano. Like he is the show. Like the entirety of the show is just him. Like he's the big, like he's just the pillar of everything. And like you won't even, like, a lot of people, they wouldn't know the show, but they'd recognize him. Like anyone that hasn't seen the show would recognize him as Tony Soprano.
Definitely.
Which, R.I.P. But yeah, he was
R.I.P. James Gandolphini, who absolutely, I think, brings this show to a whole new level.
He changed that guy single-handedly changed television and television shows and main characters, and just like absolutely changed the game. Like completely just did a full 180 on it.
He did. He really did. I think the world of James Gandolphini. This entire cast. I mean, when we're talking secondary characters being the lead of an episode, and this is the most important one. Like it's the most talked about one. So it goes to show you that they got side characters perfect too. It's really very little to complain about when it comes to Sopranos. Like I actually would have an even harder time doing like a worst Sopranos list. Because there's not that many episodes where I don't like.
If you told me to pick 5 episodes,
maybe count on one hand.
I can't put together 5 episodes that I could say I did not like. I could not.
Me neither.
I could not. But okay, I want to go into this. The David Chase. This is not from me. This is from Michael Imperioli, who played Christopher, who had the information, I believe, from David Chase, who said. He said that on the Talking Sopranos podcast with him and Steve Sherpa, who plays Bobby Bacala, he says that the Russian guy gets away, but he was shot in the head, and he was. I believe that the idea that he had, it was gonna be like a one scene thing, like in some random area in the middle, like wherever. Someone was gonna go in. I guess Christopher. It was probably gonna be Christopher. Honestly, Christopher goes into this like deli or this one place, and they were gonna show the Russian guy with like a big wrap around his head, like he was like he had like some brain trauma or some issues, and then Christopher was gonna see this guy and be like, holy shit, and then I believe Christopher was gonna go up and like order something from like a deli or something, and Christopher was supposed to go up and order from the guy, and the guy didn't recognize him. And you could tell, and the thing was, you were supposed to be able to tell that he had like brain damage and he was not thinking right, and he had like no idea what was going on. Like, he was like a lost guy. But like, when I was listening to the podcast and I heard that, I had to like stop and think for like a half hour. I couldn't think. Like, what the fuck? Like, I would have been okay with it because I think that's if he did get hit in the head and he had brain damage and he doesn't remember anything, that's pure genius. But you said you didn't. I remember I was telling you about that, and you weren't as into it as I was.
Not at all.
I love the filling gaps thing, like afterwards. So
see, I'm the opposite with this particular show. I think totally leave that open. Let me think about that to the end of time. Did that guy really get away? Did he not? It leads you to think, because Paulie's car was taken, that you think that he did get away.
That's where I come from with that, is that his car was gone, and Paulie, I believe, got a new car after that. So that was a big thing.
Yeah, I don't know. I definitely, I'm glad they didn't personally do that, but it's funny because the next one we're talking about, it does have a deleted scene that I didn't know until just a couple days ago when I was show prepping about a certain character that was written out of a scene in Test Stream. So we'll get there. But I guess that's a fine enough transition into the number 2 episode on our list. The Test Stream. Sorry for the anticlimacticness. I don't mean to be like Kennedy and Heidi over here, but the Test Stream, number 2, one of my favorite episodes. Possibly the smartest thing the Sopranos ever did, because we all, we've discussed this tonight. We've discussed it in the past. The dream sequences and how well they're done on the Sopranos, how brilliantly they're directed, and dream logic and stuff like that. And me being a fan of guys that did dream sequences and dream logic, guys like Dario Argento, guys like James Wan, and to revolve not 100% of the episode, but a big chunk and portion just to being a set dream. To me, was the best idea the show ever could have had. And I remember the first time I watched it, I marked the fuck out every 5 minutes.
I remember telling you, we watched that one. I was like, listen, what you're about to see is something that you've never seen before on the show, which is like, it's completely true. You just like, they go into a like 20-minute long dream, like full dream, like no break, no like, it's this constant tumbling of scenes and scenery. And I think it starts with Tony going to bed after he sleeps like that the Asian escort that he has, because he's in a hotel in the city because him and Carmela are separated at this time.
This is at the beginning. He's with Valentina, right?
And she burns
herself. That's where they plant that scene. But this is after where Tony and yes. Carmela are having dinner, and I want to get back together with you. But he actually is not getting off with Valentina like he used to, because he's not sneaking around Edie Falco's back. So you see that's kind of, limped off.
Yeah, you can
the
see
same thing with this hotel.
Mm-hmm. But So it starts with him. I remember fucking and the crazy. Oh, Sam, look at the comment. What's up,
Oh,
Sam?
you can see the comments. I didn't know you could.
Oh, I could see him. I just can't put one in there. What's up,
Okay.
Sam?
Sam's
Shout
in the
out to
house. Sam, what's up?
Go follow Sam on Instagram. She's all over the place. Supermodel. Go get it. Okay, so we are back in this test stream. Tony wakes up and he is right next to
Kara's here too.
Kara. Follow Kara on Instagram as well. They're both big TikTok stars. They both love the action.
Yes.
So basically, Tony wakes up and he's next to Carmine, the old the boss from New York who's dead, I believe. Everyone in the sequence, this is like the whole thing is like it's gonna be hard to explain, but
yeah, I don't know how we're gonna do this.
He wakes up next to Carmine Sr. and Tony jumps out of bed. He's like, "What the fuck?" Starts freaking out, runs over. This is like brilliantly done. He's like, looks at the phone starts ringing. Carmine goes, "Answer the fucking thing." Tony picks up the phone and it's like I don't know whose voice it is, some random voice on the phone.
I know whose voice it is. Found it out yesterday. It's fucking David Chase.
Shut up.
I swear to God, it's David Chase.
That's
I swear. My God, that's got to be Valentina. They thrown him off a 40-foot cell.
I can't. I'm trying to process the fact that was David.
I know, dude. I didn't know until yesterday. I was like, I don't know if he knows this, but I'm glad that I've live reaction.
I am shocked. I am fucking shocked that. Oh my God,
David Chase.
What the fuck? And so he tells him, he's like, "Yeah, our friend gotta go," and talking about probably Carmine and and it transitions to them in a car. Tony's father is driving the car. Big pussy's in the front seat.
Ralph.
I believe Mikey Palmisi from season
Mike
1.
Palmisi's in there. Ralph's in there.
And he goes, asshole, I know I'm dreaming. And he goes, I got no opinion one way or the other. And the dream, this is probably my second favorite because this is like I go nuts for the dream sequences, like absolutely bonkers.
So do I.
And it changes. I think Ralph is in the front seat now. Artie's next to him in the back seat, and Ralph goes, "We're driving you to the job." And Tony's dad's just smoking cigarettes in the car. It is unbelievable. Then it goes to Melfi's office, and he's talking, and then you see Gloria Trillo in Melfi's chair.
And you hear Melfi's voice, right?
Yes,
coming out of
they switch voices back and forth between Melfi. It is so much going on in this. It is the most it would take us. We could do a 2-hour long
analysis.
Just like this, literally. It is so much detail. It is hard to wrap your head around it.
And honestly, every 5 minutes, I don't know. People say I sell easily, but I was like, wait, what? Wait, Ralph and Pussy? Holy shit! I loved it though. It was so well done, man.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so then. Yeah. Oh, okay. So after Tony says, I think Tony says something to Gloria, and she says, "Oh, I never had kids. I died too young." And that's when, and Tony just gets the whole mood, just because they were laughing, and then that happens, the whole mood drops. It cuts to him at home with Carmela. They look at the TV. They're watching something on TV, and then it cuts to the two of them on the TV, and they're watching themselves on the TV. I was losing my fucking shit. I was like, what's going on? What in the world is happening? And that's when Tony sees himself losing his teeth.
Yes.
And Michael Imperioli says, who plays Christopher, says that that's a sign when you dream about yourself losing teeth, that has something to do with you feeling like you're about to die or death or something like that, but it's about you losing teeth.
Yes, there's also, I want to mention this because this is the thing I was mentioning before. They go to meet Finn's parents. Of course, it's John Hurd's character from the first season who took the fucking Swanton bomb off the fucking bridge. And Annette Bening, that's who they were playing his parents. Of course,
it was Finn's parents. When I saw him at that dinner table, I fucking went crazy. I was like, because I loved his character, and when they had him, I believe that was a subconscious thing too, because they were warning him about what Tony B did, and that's why this was because last time John Hurt's character, the Detective Makazian, was in the show, he was trying to warn Tony about Big Pussy, and Tony wouldn't listen to him. He was like, "You're full of shit, whatever." And now he's back to warn him about Tony B, because Tony B is that's what I got from him being in that scene, and so they go to I remember the two of them. Makazian sings like a weird song or whatever, and they end up going to the bathroom together, him and the guy.
And they do the Godfather. But wait, before you go there, Meadow, AJ are sitting at the table as well. There's a deleted scene apparently where instead of Meadow, it's Tracy sitting next to AJ. That apparently is out there. They shot it. There's still images where Tracy and AJ, you can see them in the same shot. I've never seen the scene. I don't know if it's anywhere online. They did shoot that, though. I had to tell you that as well. I fucking was mind blown by that. But yes, that exists apparently. I could send you the picture of the still image.
That's wow.
You look shocked. We could take some questions because I see Sam and Kara. What character from the show do you relate to the most and why? I would say I'm most like Bobby Baklava because he's just laid back, doesn't want any problems, and ends up getting into some shit anyway. I guess that would be me.
Oh, how about you? God, that's actually tough. I don't really know who I relate to most on this show.
It's probably best not to relate to anybody.
You're probably right, but yeah, I mean, I could see a little bit of Bobby, but like I have too many I'm too many anger problems to be Bobby though. I can't Bobby.
Kara thinks I'm
Bobby.
I think so too. That's like probably why I love him so much.
Bobby is the most real character on the show. But I actually, you know what? If I had to relate to one person the most, it's 100% Furio. No, like there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. I think I'm Ralphie.
Wow. I didn't kill the horse. I did not. But so what if I did? It was a fucking horse. Have you guys got to the episode with Adriana dying yet? It broke my heart. We just talked about long-term parking.
Yes,
actually. That was what we did before this. So definitely, you are our number one fans. Thank you so much, Sam. We appreciate that. Much love. Yep.
But, oh man, so
I don't think you're Ralphie, man. Just gotta say.
I'm not, I think I really, because I think I'm Furio. I think I'm more related to Furio just because I'm a super loyal person. And
you are Furio. That's a good point.
He was by far the most loyal on the show. He was the one who was not breaking any rules for anybody for any fucking reason. He was the one who was like just, to a T, just that guy that was just, you needed to have around.
He was smart enough not to do what he wanted to do with Carmela, and like I wish they had gone there just for Carmela, but I think he made the right call in doing what he did.
Yeah, he did. He went home because Tony would have found out and he would have died.
Yeah. But all right, Furio, Bobby, bro. We got the names wrong.
I would have rather they did that than they kill Furio, though, because that would have been. I wouldn't have agreed with them killing.
I'm so glad they didn't kill Furio. That would have been shitty, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. But back into the test stream. Tony loses his teeth. They go to the bathroom. They're out. He's out to dinner with Finn's parents, which is Annette Bening and John Hurt, who was a character earlier on the show. They go to the bathroom. Tony, it's Godfather style, the classic toilets. Tony goes to reach up behind the toilet for the gun. The gun's not there. And John Hurt tells him, he goes, "Oh, the gun's not there," which he's trying to tell him that he's not ready for whatever's coming. I think it relates to the last episode of the whole series where everyone, the theory is the guy comes out of the bathroom Godfather style and shoots Tony, and where John Hurt goes to the because the whole thing around the dream is it's a recurring dream for Tony, which is his high school football coach tells him that he's not prepared. At the end of the dream. That's
the whole reason it's called the test dream. He wasn't ready for the test.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
He tries to shoot him and the bullets melt. And
so the test could be for Tony B, which is probably the more relevant present thing. But I think that scene with him going and the guy and not having the gun, especially with how the last episode and scene of the series was supposed to go, I think the two of them intertwine a lot. Like that's where I thought, holy hell, like that's where they started to hint that Tony wasn't ready for this this last scene that was going to happen. He wasn't ready for it. That he didn't have his
No.
gun.
And they chase him and down the alley, and you can see like people looking out the windows at him. It's like from an aesthetic standpoint, it's so visually like just so much going on, and the fact that they got all of these actors back, even people from the first season, like John Hurd, who died early on in the first season. Like when I saw him, I was like, wait a minute, what? Like, and then if they had thrown Tracy in there, Gloria Trillo, like. They really, this is the episode where they fucking went for it, I think. I think this was, if we're going to do a long dream sequence, we've really got to fucking make
and
this.
Tony B kills Philly Leotardo in the dream sequence in front of the big crowd. Tony runs out after
He's
him.
blamed for it. Tony's blamed.
Yeah, they're like, you knew this was going to happen. Why didn't you stop it? He runs away. Artie actually is the one who's like, come on, over here. Takes him in the car. Who was in the car with him? I think I wrote it down. Who's in the car with him?
I remember that there's a weird where he's fucking Artie's wife, like, and Artie's like cheering him on.
That happens right after this. Yeah. They get in the car. It's Gigi Richie Aprile, who looks way older, and Artie in the car. Artie's driving, and he's doing Tony's mannerisms, like with his face and his head. He's doing his mannerisms, which I was like, on the one where I rewatched, I was like, holy, that's really good acting, because he was doing like Tony's exact mannerisms, which is crazy. And after that, he's cucking his Artie's right there, and he's telling him, he's like, oh, she really likes it when you rub her muzzle. That's what he says to him. And it's so fucked up.
Yeah, no, I was like, wait a minute, what? Like, didn't expect that.
So that happens. And then it cuts to right after that, because he's muzzled like a horse. It cuts to Tony on a horse.
On Pyomai.
In his house with Carmela, like in the house. And Carmela's like, you can't have that in here. And he's like, why not? Like, oh my God.
I think that horse scene is foreshadowing that he wants to go back home, but he can't have these horses in the living room with him.
Perfect.
And that's how it ends, where like I think he wakes up and calls her, and they kind of watch the sun come up, and
yes. He wakes up, and Christopher comes to see him and tells him that Tony B kills Billy. He tells him that. Christopher leaves. It's like 5 a.m. He calls Carmela, and they're talking on the phone like two 16-year-old kids at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning that don't want to get off the phone with each other. That I think he says like, oh, is it light where you are yet? And he asks her that twice, and then it was just like, it was that kind of like that getting back together, like that breaking the tension kind of scene. That was, oh man, that is, for anyone who doesn't like Test Stream, you got to go back and rewatch, look at all the details, look at all the characters that are there. Even if you don't really like the dream sequences and they're a little confusing, it is so well done. The underlying messages are all there. It is like so perfect. It's
I would say like definitely I think you have this in the right spot. I mean, this is one of my favorite episodes. And I know what you're right. There's so many people that don't like this one.
A lot of people don't. A lot of people don't like the dream sequences. They are really confusing. They're fast. They cut here, cut there. Voices change. It doesn't make sense. It's like, it is a lot to handle, but I go absolutely nuts.
Maybe that's why, like, Mulholland Drive is a movie I showed you with, dream logic and stuff.
That's a great one.
I know that's another movie that could rub people the wrong way, but when I first saw it, I had the same reaction as when I first saw that. When I was first seeing this,
when I watched it, I was mad the first time. I was like, what happened? And why? I didn't realize that the same actress was playing both parts in that movie, which is a whole different movie, but like, I was like, I couldn't believe it. Me and Kyle couldn't believe it.
Yeah, no, I tell you both. I was like, no. And you guys were like, oh, shit. Like, yeah, but like, that's like, sort of with me. Like, if I watched this with somebody who liked The Sopranos, didn't like this episode, I would be like, try to explain it maybe in a different light. I don't know. Like, I think I don't know. This is a culmination of a masterpiece of an episode for me. So before we get to number one, I know you had honorable mentions. I didn't write them down here. I have them on my phone.
I think I know what they are. The honorable mentions that we have are Employee of the Month, where Dr. Melfi unfortunately gets raped, which is probably the most brutal, like excruciating to watch TV scene I've ever fucking seen. Like, you see the entire thing play out. It is like absolutely fucking terrifying. I can't imagine, it is absolutely terrifying.
Yeah, it is.
But they do a dream. There's a dream sequence in that, which is
Oh my God! With the
What we're probably gonna just mention the dream here is that
the Coke
she
machine.
is Coke machine in her psychiatrist's office. She gets her hand stuck going for the Coke at the bottom, and she puts 2 pieces of macaroni in there. She goes for the Coke, her hand gets stuck, and a dog is like a dog is about to come bite her and kill her. It looks like, and instead you see her rapist come back and he's going to go after her again, and she's screaming and you can't hear her scream because it's a dream, which is so well done, so accurate to how dreams actually are, and instead the dog gets loose and bites and kills and rips apart the guy that raped her, which obviously, or not obviously, but was a analogy or whatever to her wanting Tony who was the dog, to go attack the guy who raped her because it was
and
obviously
kill him, and then she says no at the end. And
yep, and that was one of the hardest endings ever to like digest. That, like, why didn't she say yes? Like, why didn't she say yes? Like, why didn't you let this guy rip apart the person who raped you? Like, oh, that's one of the biggest regrets from the show, is that one.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's fantastically done. That's one of my favorite episodes for sure as well. I really
Another honorable mention is the From Where to Eternity. It's in season 2. It's right after Christopher gets shot, where he has the hallucination or dream while he's in a coma that he's in hell. And
in the Irish bar with his dad.
and they tell Tony and Paulie 3:00 because he tell Mikey, tell Tony and Paulie 3:00, and that is because the guy who would have killed Tony if he got shot in the last episode would have shot him from 3:00, and the reason it was Tony and Paulie because everybody else is dead. Everybody else was dead at that point except for Tony and Paulie. You have the scene with the 2 of them sitting outside Satriel's, where it's just the 2 of them, and that's why Mikey said, tell Tony and Paulie, they're the last ones that are going to be there, which eerie shit coming from the second season all the way to the last episode, but a lot goes into that one. You should definitely, that one's a fan favorite. I know people love that episode, so that one's an honorable mention. Last honorable mention we got is Remember When from season 6.
I love that one.
Season 6, Remember When Tony and Paulie go down to Florida because I think a guy that Tony and Paulie killed like 30 years ago, like they dug up the body or some crazy shit, and so they left town, and the entire time Tony's debating on killing Paulie. Like the whole episode was based on that and their relationship. So that was a crazy episode. What I don't know, you love that one. You go into that.
That's probably one of my favorite ones of the 6th season. It just like, I don't know what it was about it. Maybe because it was the 6th season, the first part of it, like the first, like 6A, I don't get as into as 6B. And this is the one from 6B that I think is really the most underrated. Like Soprano Home Movies gets its mention and its day in the sun, but I would say that this one really doesn't get its fair shake. I don't know. It's fucking really good. Like when they're on the boat together and Paulie's making the food for them and they're talking and they have these shots of all the things he can murder Paulie with, but he doesn't. Yeah. I mean, really good. Really good. I don't know. There's something about it and talking about the old days and the stories. And there's just something about Remember When that was magical to me. And I think there was one more honorable mention. Whoever did this, which I know we have.
Yes. Yeah. Whoever did this was another one we wanted to talk about. That's when the infamous Ralphie gets killed. Yeah. And me and Mr. Grande have the ultimate crossroads where if anybody's here who has seen the show, please put in the comments whether or not Ralphie killed that horse and set that fire on the stable. I am willing to go to my grave on the fact that Ralphie 100% set that fire and killed that horse. And there's nothing anybody can tell me to convince me.
I think like 99% of people would agree with you. I don't know. There's something about it.
It's the popular opinion, but I got a lot of details to back that up from that last scene in that episode. And that was, oh man, that it is so good. That the great episode.
To me, that's like, I think like we were talking now, it almost feels like a finale, even though it's not. John Perna knows who did it. It was Nick Arnone.
Arnone did it. He's right.
I was trying to tell you it was Arnone the whole time.
He did it for the insurance money.
Bro, Kyle Allen was pro at setting accidental fires. So yeah, no, I love that one too. We've had our discussion and debate about that, but that's a great episode as well. Easily could have any of those four could have easily made this top 10 too.
Oh, for sure. Oh, for sure. We were talking about that. We were like, how do we fucking put these last ones out? Like, how
narrowing this down to 10 must have been the hardest. Like, you worked on this for weeks, so I
remember I was like, yo, what's the date for the show? And we had 2 weeks. I was like, holy hell, I need to.
Yeah, you asked me that in like early September. I was like, fuck. I was like, he's really fucking like.
Dude, I love so many episodes that I'm like, how could I pick 10? I was like, all right, let me narrow this down. I had like 25 episodes. I'm like I'm lost here. I gotta buckle down and figure this out.
Yeah, no, it's definitely it's a great show, great honorable mentions, and 10 through 2 have been fantastic. This leads us to the number 1 episode of The Sopranos. In my humble opinion, this is the best. I think this is the best episode of The Sopranos, my personal favorite. This is Funhouse coming in at number 1. The moment you've all been waiting for, Funhouse. To me, the perfect episode of The Sopranos, the quintessential episode, the episode that I said before, whereas Isabella is the second most grand when it comes to The Sopranos. I think Funhouse is the most grand. It has a little bit of everything in it. It's that big character moment. It has the family values. It has great character moments. It has a great dream sequence. I mean,
it has a bunch of dreams. It has a bunch of short. I think I wrote out how many. I think 5 short like fever dream sequences for Tony when he gets sick.
Yes, and it's they're all so well done. Like, it's, to me, it's just, it has the most to it. Like somebody said, show somebody an episode of The Sopranos that, you know, has the most to show from it. This would be the episode I'd show.
Oh yeah, I think a lot of like I've seen a lot of people that have lists that this is always like top 1 or 2 or 3. This is like resounding as one of the best episodes in the show. But this is like, I know this is your favorite. Like this is a great one. You have oh man, the first dream, it's snowing on the boardwalk that Tony always goes to. It's snowing, and it's like Hesh, Big Pussy, Sil, Paulie, and Philly Parisi with his head's all fucked up because you guys.
He's all scarred and shit.
And they give him Tony says he has cancer and he's about to kill himself because he's like gonna save everybody. I remember Sil looks at him. He's like, yeah. He's like, who's got a friend like this guy? He's gonna save you all those trips to the hospital. Like, it was weird shit. Those dreams probably make a lot less sense, like in relativity. But those,
I don't even know. Like, I don't know about how you feel about this. I don't know if everything in the dreams in this episode do have a meaning. Like,
they don't. No, a lot of them don't. Like, I think David Chase definitely has a reason for them all, but they're so opaque.
Like, they're ones where like Junior's looking out the window at him. Yes, I'm like,
he's walking down, he sees Junior. Like, Junior peeks out of the window, crazy. That's when Sil is dressed as Michael Corleone in Godfather 3.
Yeah,
the true enemy has yet
to reveal himself, and it's almost like he's on the conveyor belt. Like, he doesn't even look like he's walking.
He right after Sil says that, Tony walks over to the binoculars that are on the edge of the beach, puts in a quarter, whatever, and he sees himself and Paulie playing cards 1-on-1. And I think Paulie says like queen bets or something, and he's just talking, and Tony stands up and shoots him, and then it shuts and the dream closes. And I was like, what in the world? And I think that dream that exactly could have meant that he killed the wrong guy. If he did, like, it's not Paulie. I think it's just driving him away from it because he didn't want to come to terms with the fact that Pussy was the rat. Like, he even
asked Smelfie, I believe, in the following therapy scene, you know, why did I kill Paulie in the dream? And she's like, maybe you killed the wrong guy. But I think you're being played, you know, which is what kind of sets up the line for, you know, his dream with the fishes and the ice, the dead fishes. And that's basically where he finds out that Pussy is the rat. And I don't know, man. There's just the dream sequences in this are great. Him walking and smiling, and some of the background shots of the clowns on the buildings, and that hence the title of Fun House.
Dude, they in a really short sequence. I don't think they say anything. It's Tony gets in a clown car, like a rig, one of those like clown cars, like so small, with Adriana, Furio in the back, and Christopher in the back. Adriana's driving, and Furio hands him toilet paper because he's sick or whatever, and they don't say anything, and they just drive off, and the dream ends. Like, completely random, just like but it was fantastic. I love that one. That dream was great.
Me too, yeah. And it's like the whole time he's having food poisoning, and at first they think it's because of Indian food he's eaten, but
then it was probably because of Artie's, like the mix or whatever. But
definitely,
and there's also the Michael Imperioli's theory that he knew when they were out to dinner early in the episode, and Pussy was wearing a wire explaining the scam they were doing, and Tony gives them this look, and Michael Imperioli thinks that Tony knew and he just couldn't face it, and that's why he got sick. And he has those dreams, and immediately after he has this dream about he's staring at this fish, these few fish, and it's Big Pussy's voice, and he tells him that he's the rat, and he tells him, he's like, oh, these guys next to me tell him they're asleep, and Tony gets really mad. He like flips this fish stand or whatever, and he wakes up and immediately gets dressed, like cuts right to him getting dressed. And they go get Big Pussy, and they bring him out to the boat because they say that, oh, we're going to go test out a boat or whatever. Well, Tony finds the wires in the cigar box, which is, the nail in the coffin.
That is the nail in the coffin. He finds the wire when he's in the bathroom getting ready. It's just, you're like, oh man.
Yeah, there it is, and then you just know. And then they go to the marina, and they take the boat out. And they end up killing Big Pussy, and which is probably one of the hardest. It's just that drawn out tension in that scene. Big Pussy's like, he's not even really trying to save himself. He's just kind of like, he just knows what's coming.
The whole way that played out. Like, I'll be honest, the first time I watched it, I was like, how can an episode do something that I haven't seen before? With something like this, and they do it. Like, he starts defending it at first, and then he almost comes to term with it. And they pour him a drink, and, they let him tell his side of the story. And the final, not in the face,
Oh, yeah, he was, let me keep my eyes. He's like, give me that.
Vincent Pastore is fucking great in that scene. Like, I was just like, jaw dropped, and it's what has to happen. How it ends, but
yeah, they're all drinking tequila, and there's like a Frank Sinatra song going on at first, and Tony just looks at him. He's like, when did they flip you? When? And he just can't see, and you could just tell it's eating Big Pussy apart, and you could see it's like Syl. I remember Syl goes up to the sea part of the boat, goes to the top of the boat, and Tony goes up, and he's like, oh, I have food poisoning, what's wrong with you? And he's yelling at him, and Syl goes, don't yell at me. And it's just so simple, so like out of character for them. Tony yells at him, he's like, don't yell at me, and Tony's like, I'll yell at you. And that you could just tell that they're just like broken characters in that scene, because
they're all shook by it because they had to kill one of their own, and
except for Paulie, though. Paulie, the death stare that Paulie gave Pussy in that episode is just like unreal. He's
That's true to Paulie. Paulie doesn't, like you said before, show me one other sympathetic moment.
Nope, none. He goes, he was a rat bastard. He fucked me in the ass, and that's like. Paulie was just that. Paulie was that true, just gangster, just like to a T. Just no ifs, ands, or buts about it. It was just a gangster.
Yeah, no, I agree. I don't know. It's just that whole way that played out. I thought, wow, like this is one of the best episodes of The Sopranos. And then the rest of it plays out where Meadow's having her graduation. Of course, Tony gets arrested right in front of her. So you have that big emotional scene. He of
That
course
happens
makes
after. Yeah,
bail.
that's the irony. He gets arrested for giving his mother the airline tickets, not for killing Big Pussy 20 minutes ago.
Yes, the fraud airline ticket. He gets out, and then it kind of ends with another similar season one, like a big family moment. Like they all have their arms around each other, they're smiling, the music's playing. Like it's again, it's a very like we were saying before.
Very togethery kind of feel and whatever. But that's oh man, that's yeah, because she graduates right after, and they have the grad party, and everybody's there, and Big Pussy is not there, and
It's so good. It's
that
just
is
so good.
oh man, that's analytically it is probably the best of all the episodes. Like it just like the way the story, the way the plot meshes with all the underlying undertones that go into it. It is like that is
It has
probably the
everything.
best
It just
episode.
has
Yeah.
everything. Like to me, this and Isabella, they have everything. Like it's the two
Yeah, I
most
do.
grand
I think
episodes
yeah,
of it.
100%. When it comes to like standalone episodes, these two, that and Isabella, are probably the best. Like when you're watching the story, you just can't get enough of it, and you're just like, wow, holy hell, like this is great.
Completely, man. So that's Fun House at number one. A fantastic top 10 list, man. I gotta say, you did a great job in this
Thank
prep.
you. Yeah, thank you for having me. This is unbelievable. I have a fucking blast talking. I could do this for 10 straight hours doing this. I could all day.
Hey,
This is
man, you should maybe. I know you have your own account. Maybe you should do like in-depth Soprano analysis videos. That would be
man,
fun.
I could sit here and do this for each episode. I could do like if you asked me to do a 2 hour thing on test stream, I could give you 4. It's like it's bad.
I'm sure people have. I would love to see the giant
Oh,
thesis
dude, yeah, I
papers.
haven't watched a lot of people talk about the episodes. Actually, I've listened to Michael Imperioli, Steve Sherpa talk about it a lot, but like, oh man, that would be a lot of fun. That would be great. That would be
For
so.
sure. Before we go, any thoughts, any ideas about the Many Saints of Newark? I know we're going to see it Saturday. Any ideas,
Whew.
expectations, anything like that?
I just, man, I kind of want to go into this thing completely blind because I know the fact that I had questions about it, but when I found out that David Chase was involved with making this and the creation behind it, I am like all for it. It could be 10 hours long and I'll sit through every second of it.
I'm really excited to see Dickie Maldesante. Like, I
Yes,
really want to know his
yes.
character. And performance wise, I'm really excited to see what Michael Gandolphini brings.
Oh, the 100. That is took the words out of my mouth. I think when I saw the first images that came out of him as Tony, because at first I was like, maybe I don't think it's gonna work. Like, it may be a little forced. But when I like saw the scenes and the trailer and him talking like Tony, I was like, holy fucking shit, this kid is a spitting image of his father, and this is going to be absolutely great. He's probably going to be phenomenal, and Saturday night, baby, we are going to see Many Saints of Newark. Do you know that Molti Santi in Italian is Many Saints?
Oh, I didn't know that at all. No.
That's why it's Many Saints of Newark, because multi is many, is multi is many, and Santi is saint. So Moltisanti is many
The
saints.
Moltisantis of Newark. Okay, I'm excited. I'm definitely thinking
It's
Moltisanti.
Moltisanti de Newark, baby. That is, I am so excited, man. I cannot wait. We're gonna have a blast.
Dude, absolutely. So thank you so much for coming on. Screams and Italian noises from a good brother, Mark. Yeah, always, brother. Thank you so much for coming on. October season starts next week, Graveyard fans. We're going to be doing a bunch of horror-related stuff for Rocktober, Shocktober, October season. It's going to be a lot of fun. But everybody have a safe rest of the weekend, safe rest of the night. We will catch you next week only on The Graveyard. Too sweet peace.
Graveyard,
We'll catch you all
baby.
next time.
Thank you.